Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a trade deadline day edition of Birds 365 here on the JAKIB Sports Network. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen, back live with you for another 2 hours here on Birds 365. Johnny Mac, how you doing on an election day, on a trade deadline day, on a Tuesday edition of Birds 365, my friend?
Well, I forgot it was election day, so yeah, happy election day. So I'm a little too bogged down in the Philadelphia Eagles hat tip to Howie Roseman. But come on, Howie, you didn't give us breaking news to start the show. What's going on? He's slowing down.
Yesterday was a good one, John. We got Howie threw us a bone yesterday with a little breaking news before the show.
Yeah, trade deadline 4:00 Eastern. Now the rest of the teams will start getting involved. The moribund Dallas Cowboys lose again. They make a trade this morning, so they get started. This is when the normal teams get going because they wait till the last minute and make mistakes, and Howie's ahead of the game typically, so he deserves credit for that. But I do think the splashiness is over for the Eagles, but they still have some roster crunch issues, especially if they plan on getting Nolan Smith back this week. They have to create a roster spot. Ja'Cory Bennett, I don't know. Do they want him back now that they got two more corners? But if they do, they'd have to create a roster spot for him. So they still have a roster crunch. That means some guys could be leaving via the trade market if they can get anything for them. But I do think the splashy stuff is over.
Yeah, we'll see what they end up doing. John, we'll talk all about that. Based on your intel, what likelihood are you going to put it that the Eagles are not done? I agree with you. I don't think there's a splash or anything like that, but maybe some back-end roster, maybe some depth pieces like they've done in the other moves so far. Do you think another move is coming, or do you think Howie's kind of settled in here?
No, not a big move, like I said. I think
just a depth move or something like that. Yeah.
And more likely people leaving than coming in. If anything, to have too much depth, as far not necessarily as far of guys that you're competent in, using cornerback as an example, because they have so many cornerbacks and they don't trust any of them. So, but you got to pick. To me, it's like if you think about Keely Ringo, Ja'Cory Bennett as the young guys, and Adoree Jackson and Jair Alexander as the old guys on the outside. You want to carry all four of those? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially when Jair and Adoree don't play special teams.
Right. One of them's got to go.
You would think. Yeah. So, and Jair just got here, so I think he's safe.
It's Adoree.
Yeah. But they could go the other direction and say, they already traded John Mechie. They traded him, then they traded him out. They could do the same thing with Ja'Cory Bennett, because he's the one I think that maybe could fetch you a 7th round pick because of his youth and speed. Somebody might take a shot at that. So, that's the kind of trade I think you're thinking about today, not any more splash moves. And I know people like the splash. We're living proof of that, spiking, and thanks for everybody for tuning in yesterday. They love us. They love a good splash, Zander.
Yes, they do. I can't blame them. Speaking of it, don't forget to hit that like button this morning, guys. We had a big day yesterday. Appreciate everybody for being here. Smash that like button. Drop your comments down below. All super chats will go to the top. John, speaking of what we just discussed and the trade deadline being today, what is your biggest takeaway from Howie Roseman's 3-trade week? You trade for Michael Carter, you trade for Jair Alexander, and then the splash comes yesterday in Jaelan Phillips. And what do you think that tells you about how maybe the Eagles view themselves right now at this point of the year, going into week 10?
Well, I think they view themselves as a significant contender, which they probably were before this week. But, now even after this week, and it ended perfectly, thanks in large part to Josh Sweat. Did you see Josh Sweat last night, man?
Yeah, man.
All
Cooking.
over the field.
Sacks. Yep.
But the Dallas Cowboys lose at this stage. I don't think anybody else in the NFC East is going to get to 8 wins. So,
I know.
the Eagles are going
It
to
looks
wrap
bad.
this thing up pretty quickly if they continue to play well. So, obviously, for now, they're number one in the conference. They have a chance, inside track on that number 1 seed. Very early, a lot of football to play, et cetera, yada, yada, yada. But in a good position. And, I'm a big believer in cycles. Like, we're going to have our buddy Les Bowen on 920. I know he thinks they gave up too much for Phillips. And I get that thought because the NFL as a whole, believes that's too much for a player like Phillips. You're buying a rental for 9 games in the playoffs. And you think about a 3rd round pick. So the mentality of an NFL executive is you're getting a player for, I'm doing the math in my head, 68 games in the 3rd round. And that's just regular season.
Right.
So that's sort of the mentality of how they do it. But again, I think NFL teams are in different life cycles. And that's why I say this trade.
Yeah, you said that yesterday. I thought that was such a good comment by you
Yeah.
yesterday. Life cycles.
They're for Miami, this makes sense. Yeah, and that's another thing. Who won the trade? Who lost the trade? They both won the trade from their perspectives and their life cycles. They're like, all right, this is a player, and by all indications, everybody loves him down there. Seems like a good guy.
Yep, seems like a good guy for sure.
And he played, he had some injury problems, but he played well when he was healthy, including this year. But they're in a different mode. They got to reboot that organization. They got to reboot that roster, and the 68 games is more valuable to them, to the point that they agreed to pay over $5 million to get it up to a 3rd round pick. And that's more valuable to them. And I get that. And I agree with that. And for the Eagles, like, I don't care about 68 games for the next. In a good way, it might be Jalen Hunt. In a bad way, it may be Davion Taylor. So one, you got to get the evaluation right. And, you're going to get 68 games of some repute with a 3rd round pick unless you completely screw it up. Might be on special teams. It might be of significant value. But I don't care about that right now for the Eagles. They're going for another Super Bowl. They're not, this isn't about 2027, 2028. This is saying, hey, the window's open. We have a deficiency here. Let's go fill it, and let's go try to get another one. I think that's what fans would want in Philadelphia. Now, might it bite him in the ass if it doesn't work and he leaves? Sure. And they don't
win. I feel like that comp pick game is still a big part of this deal.
Well, the comp pick game is, but I think, as I said, first of all, that has to do with strategy and Howie knows. And, maybe he is going to play the comp pick game next year.
Yeah, March. But I mean, like, even if they don't identify him as a player to sign long term, which I don't think they've identified yet. I mean, I think there's a possibility they do bring him in long term or sign him to a contract. We'll see what happens. But if I think I saw somewhere, if he gets over like $14 million next year, it'll be like a 4th round pick projected. Obviously, none of that stuff is set in stone yet. I mean, so you're going to get back a 4th in the following year potentially.
Well, again, the part people forget, the compensatory pick drives me insane. All right, because you don't just get a compensatory pick based on the contract. Now, if it's $14 million and you lose more players than you sign in free agency, that's the key part. Right. Then you're probably going to get a 4th round pick somewhere in that range, maybe 5th, depending on, again, contracts are going up. But you'll get a compensatory.
So to play that game, you basically have to know you're going to lose more players like they did kind of last year. All right, so that's a different element to it. Gotcha.
So, and that's the part too many people don't take into account. Now, the Eagles are coming off a Temu offseason. Now, it was very clear they were going to lose more, so they played the comp pick game, and they played it in the past. And they got their, they're going to, that's part of the reason they're able to do all these moves this year is because they're getting a third rounder for Milton Williams. They're getting a fourth rounder, projected fourth rounder for Josh Sweat. They're getting a projected fifth or sixth, I forget what it is, for Mekhi Becton. They knew they were playing the comp picking game. Now, Howie and the staff are very good at it. Are they going to play it again next year? Maybe. Maybe not, though. So it's not just the contract. It's not just the player leaving. And remember, if he doesn't play well here and the Eagles aren't interested in re-signing him, well, nobody's going to break the bank for the guy, most likely. He's not playing well for a Super Bowl contender. So that's why I hate the comp pick conversation so early in the process. But other than, yes, Howie factors that in as sort of a safety net. But he knows the strategy. He's not going to tell me, unfortunately. Right. And they do have to sign a bunch of players or would want to sign. Jalen Carter, starting with Jalen Carter. But Nolan Smith isn't looking as expensive as it might have been, to be honest. So he might want to go out and get somebody or get a couple pieces, especially if they lose. That changes things. If they win again, yeah, he's going to probably play it safe. If they lose, the history of this team, if they don't reach expectations, they're going to uncover every rock and they're going to try to bring people in to finish the deal. So there's so much that goes into that conversation. And the reason I get frustrated is because so many fans think, well, if you lose him, you get a comp pick. It does not work that way.
Right.
And I don't care who tells you that. It does not work that way.
People just, and I'm guilty of it too. People dumb it down, to fit their narrative the best way possible. It's not always how it goes. Well, John,
and to be perfectly honest, there's a lot of people in my business that don't understand it. So, if they're not understanding it and they explain it in an incorrect way, it's not helpful either. But
what do you think then about the compensation that the Eagles sent for Jaelan Phillips? I happen to think, John, that this player has a chance to be a long-term guy in Philly. I know he's only in the last year of his deal. Right now it's a rental, but I hate saying this, but it almost feels like Nolan or Jalen. Like one of them is going to get paid and one of them probably won't be here long-term. I don't know if that's a fair way to look at it. Maybe that's the wrong way to look at it. We're going to talk to Les Bowen later in the show, John. He thought it was a pretty heavy price to pay for Jaelan Phillips. How do you feel about the price they paid for Jaelan Phillips?
Yeah, that's my life cycles conversation. If they're the Miami Dolphins, I would say, yeah, that's a bad move. That's a really bad move. If they were acquiring Jaelan Phillips, if they're the Philadelphia Eagles, I think it's a good move. Different life cycles. They're a contender. I'm in the Les Snead mode, as I said. F them picks.
Yeah,
I'm trying to win a Super Bowl. I don't give a shit if some special teamer is going to give me 17 games in 2027. Yes, is that more valuable long term? Yes, but this is why. And this is not the move, but how he made that comment that Andrew Berry put up in his office that I always talk about. You're going to have to make moves that can cost you your job. Now, that's not true with Howie. And he hates when I bring this up. He hates when everybody brings it up. He understands that he's got a longer rope. But for other GMs, that is 100% true. You're going to have to make decisions that if they go wrong, they're going to cost you your job. But you can't win if you don't make those decisions, if you don't be bold, if you don't do things that go against conventional thinking. And when you're a contender and you're bringing in a guy who can help you for 9 games at an obvious need, that's different than if you're a middling team. Even forget about the Dolphins. If you're like going to be a 7 seed and you're bringing in Jaelan Phillips under these circumstances for a 3rd round pick, I would say that's a bad trade. For a legitimate Super Bowl contender, I would say it's a good trade. And that's another thing where I think it's not the same.
Right.
They're different life cycles, teams. But for the Eagles, I thought it was a good trade.
How do you see this? I know this is a future conversation, but I still think it's on people's mind, and it's certainly on my mind. Do you think the Eagles could, what does Jaelan Phillips have to do to be identified as a player that the Eagles will pay? I mean, I think that in the perfect world, people think, hey, if he goes and gets his 8 sacks and has a good year, people will pay him. But that doesn't get rid of some of the other contracts that are upcoming on the defensive side of the ball as well, including some offensive decisions that'll need to be made soon as well. What do you think Jaelan Phillips has to do here to get a long-term contract? How realistic do you think that is? How do you kind of view that part of it?
Well, he's still only 26, so that's positive. Like a lot of people said, why not Chubb? We had James Carver on the show yesterday. Chubb is like 30. He's going to be 30. He's still young. Draymond Jones got traded. He's 28 or 29. Phillips is younger, so that's positive. Some of the injuries took some tread off the tire. Put it back on the tire because he hasn't had as many reps as he typically would have. So that could be a silver lining. There's not a number. I mean, he's got to play effectively, and if he's the best, this is a long-term need for the Philadelphia Eagles at a position they value. If he plays well and they win a Super Bowl and he's their best edge rusher, yeah, that might look like a bunch of pressures. It might look like 4 sacks, 5 sacks, 6. Doesn't matter. If he's an impactful player for a Super Bowl winner and he's 26 going on 27, and he helps them win another Lombardi trophy, yeah, at that position, they will bring him back. Because if they did nothing and stood pat at the trade deadline, and even if say Nolan Smith things continue to go poorly on a health front, and you got to push that back a year, and you're going to play the waiting game, and they might do that anyway with Nolan Smith. Even if that happened, we'd be talking about the draft and saying, well, they're going to go get an edge rusher. They have to go get an edge rusher. So to get a player like this, it's all based on how effective he is. And, you can envision what it's going to look like. 3rd and long in playoff games. It's going to be Jaelan Phillips. It's going to be Nolan Smith. It's going to be Jalen Carter. It's going to be Moro Ojomo. And on paper, that looks like a pretty darn good pass rush.
Do you think this is the player that was needed to fix the edge problems that you've talked about extensively all year?
Well, I think he's the most realistic option to fix it. Obviously the pie in the sky people, obviously Myles Garrett would be better. So from a realism standpoint, this is the best player they could have gotten. And they got him. So I think that's a positive. And it not only helps you with the pass rush and the edge rushing situation, it also helps you at cornerback too, because you're going to be better on the pass rush.
Exactly.
So it's going to help whether it's Keely Ringo, Jair Alexander, or I doubt it's going to be Adoree at this stage. I doubt it's going to be Jacorian. So whomever it is, they're going to be better because the pass rush is better.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that goes. I mean, speaking of the cornerback too, they bring in Jair Alexander also and Michael Carter, John, 2 other additions here going into the trade deadline. Both of those came down. Jair on Saturday night, a rare Saturday evening trade, and then Michael Carter was last week. I want to say maybe Thursday or Friday, forget what it was. How do you kind of view those 2 trades now? That they're in the rearview mirror and potentially bolster the cornerback spot. I know Michael Carter's more of a slot guy. Jair is going to be more of that outside guy. I don't know if either of them will be on the football field. How do you view those trades?
Yeah, I think those trades are more about volume and depth and options for Big Fangio than anything else. I don't think those are. Michael Carter's coming in to play the slot so Cooper can move outside, or Jair's going to play outside so they can keep Cooper in the slot. I don't think it's specific. Like Jaelan Phillips is specific. He's coming in to help the pass rush specifically. These two guys are about giving Vic options. Obviously, he hasn't been confident with the depth at corner. Not only outside, but behind Cooper at nickel. He's not comfortable with what they have there. And this gives him more options, more volume. Iron sharpens iron is one of the million cliches around the NFL. So hopefully the competition picks up, maybe it picks up the performance of Mac McWilliams behind the scene. Maybe it picks up the performance of Kaylee Ringo. To have, people at your heels that you bring into the trade deadline. That's what happened with Nelson Aguilar. Talk about the Golden Tate thing. Nelson played better after Golden Tate got here. Now that's more high profile move, but
yeah, right.
Maybe it helps in that way. Simple as that. But it increases the depth, and it increases the options for Vic Fangio. And that's what those two moves are about.
Yeah, good stuff. I agree. I think some good moves for Howie Roseman here at the deadline. Good prices to pay, and we'll see how much of an impact these guys have on the field. I'm feeling good about the Jaelan Phillips, John. The other part of that move is, and I think you mentioned it at least yesterday, but they ate a lot of that salary, man. I think they ate like $5.5 million. The Eagles are on the hook for what, 1.5
$1.5
million?
Yeah, $1.5 million. Well, they did that because they were buying a third-round pick. That's how they got it to a third-round pick.
Exactly. Bought the third-round pick for $5 million.
Yeah. So that's why it's what it is, and it's not. I think Draymond got. I think it was a conditional 5. I have to look it up, but plus Phillips is better, but yeah, typically it would, and that's why, and I'll let Les speak for himself, but that's for the people that think it's too much. That's, again, I think they're thinking about only the football part of it, not the business part of it. The reason it became a third is because the Eagles are paying essentially nothing on the contract, which would have been 6-point-something million for the rest of the season. Now it's 1.5 million. So that's the reason.
Yeah, 1.5. As you mentioned, they basically bought a third-round pick. John, did you see he got into the airport yesterday?
And Johnny Airport.
Johnny Airport picked it up. And I think he said, there's nowhere else I want to be than Philly. So Jaelan Phillips, it looks like Nick Sirianni gave him a call on the plane ride over and taught him how to be a great panderer. But I did like the comments from Jaelan Phillips.
Well, I think, he's a smart guy. All the people in Miami, he's a smart guy, savvy guy. Evidently, he loves it down. Who doesn't love it down there? But,
he played his college ball down there too. He's from California originally.
Yeah, he started at UCLA, finished at Miami.
That's right.
Yeah, but he'll live in Miami. He's building a house down there, and but that's fine. I mean, athletes make a lot of money. That's why there's planes.
Yep.
And I think it's the best situation for him in the fact that Vic's here, and he likes Vic, and he had probably his best stretch of his career with Vic Fangio. So that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, he commented on Vic too. He said, great, you love him as a player or as a coach and as a person. So that was a pretty good comment as well from Phillips.
Yeah, that people hated him in Miami. It was just the D-backs, and it was really 2 D-backs, 3 D-backs.
Yeah, because they wanted to play man. And I don't even know if any of them were even good enough to play man. They probably should have just listened to Vic and shut the fuck up.
Well, at one point in their at one point in their careers they were. But
yeah, they were. I know that, but
probably not when Vic had him. So
at one point in Jair Alexander's career, he was too, John. That's not it
well,
doesn't
that's
last
the
forever.
point that you got to buy in. You got to
Yeah,
buy
right.
in. You got
All
to
right, good
buy
stuff. We
in.
got a bunch of
Slay
super
bought
chats.
in.
Yeah, he did, and it worked out for him. Got him another payday in Pittsburgh. All right, John, we got a bunch of super chats. We'll get to those now. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. Good to see everybody. The Cowboys lose, the Commanders lose, the Giants lose, and the Eagles extend their lead in the NFC East.
Josh Sweat, baby. If
This
Josh is
sucker might be
listening, man.
wrapped up, man. This sucker might be wrapped up early. This NFC East, it probably already might be wrapped up.
Josh still helping the Eagles, man.
Yes, he does.
Still
Yes,
helping
he
the
is.
Eagles.
John, how many games ahead are the Eagles in the NFC East? Like 3.5?
Well, they're 6-2, and Dallas is 3-5-1. What is Washington? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
nobody's getting the 8 wins. I mean, this thing's over. I'm calling it right now.
Yeah, I'll
NFC
call
East,
it.
I'm calling it.
John, I hate to break it to you, but you had your off-season prediction wrong, my friend.
I already said that yesterday. I said it was wrong.
I'm saying it to you again, unfortunately.
I just bet the odds, man. I'm an odds guy.
I know you are.
2 decades.
Let's get to some super chat. Jalen Hurts changing the juju in the NFC. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. They're going to go back-to-back potentially here. Here's Skywalk. What's up, Skywalk? Good to see you, brother. It's crazy how so many teams lost. That helps the Eagles. Dallas was the cherry on top. I know, Sky, you're right, man. A lot of NFC teams as well. Really looks like the Seahawks and the Rams, John, are the two teams that are emerging that look like, maybe the best contenders. And then obviously I think tier 2, you still have the Packers and the Lions. But they're a little streaky for me, those two teams.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, like I said, people tend to, because of the way the NFL is set up, when somebody has a bad game, there's an overreaction. When somebody has a good game, there's an overreaction. But it wasn't a good week for the Green Bay Packers or the Detroit Lions. Does not mean they're bad football teams. And who knows? It might galvanize them. So you have to, it's not transitive. Just because you play poorly one week doesn't mean you're going to play poorly the next week. For good teams, sometimes you look at the Eagles after that Giants game, they're a different team. Same thing could happen to the Packers. Lions, Vikings, that's a little bit different because it's rivals and all that kind of stuff. But, wasn't a good week for him. That's about as far as I will go with it. I still think, there's probably five legitimate contenders, but I would put the Eagles on top now. And it's Eagles, Lions, Packers, Rams, and Seahawks for me.
Yeah, those are my 5. I just had the Seahawks and the Rams a little higher than you.
Well, I didn't put them in order.
Injuries, dude, for Green Bay and Detroit.
I'm not putting them in order. That wasn't in
was just your 5. Okay, that's fine. No, I just think those injuries, man, in Green Bay, and I know Tucker Kraft's obviously a big loss. Detroit, they lose some people. They've gotten some people back, but still feels like the Eagles, man, are just getting the luck with the injuries. I know they've had more this year, but still nothing crazy.
I'll tell you what, of all this run, man, their injury luck is unbelievable. And by injury luck,
is it now so much that it's not luck anymore? Like, is it so much of a sample size
look, I said there's certain things you can do from a health and wellness perspective, and I'm sure they do all of that in an optimum level. But there's still luck involved. Like I said, a torn ACL is a torn ACL.
Yeah,
there's not somebody on the planet that can prevent a torn ACL. If they did, they'd be making a hell of a lot of money. You can't do it. So there is some luck involved. It's not all luck.
Yeah,
but and the bigger part to me is not before the injury; it's after the injury. It's the rehab. Does that go correctly? That's where you can really help with a good training staff, a good medical staff. And the Eagles, have been very good at that since they've addressed their issues back in the day. But a large part of it is luck, and they have had a tremendous run of luck when it comes to injuries. And by injuries, I don't mean Landon Dickerson fighting through injuries. I don't mean Nolan Smith with a strained pec. Everybody's got that. I'm talking about these catastrophic injuries where guys are lost for the season, like Tucker Kraft this week, perhaps Jaden Daniels, San Francisco, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa. I mean, those are devastating. Eagles have gone through a pretty nice run here. You know, if you want to compare that, that's like I said, if you want San Francisco, those two players, that's Jalen Carter and Zach Bond. That's what that is.
If we lost those two guys, we'd be fucked.
And so the luck has been a part of it, and it's been an amazing, and I know the Eagles hate that, but it's been an amazing run of luck, and they know it. If Nick's listening, he's knocking on his desk.
But I do think they've done some things well to do their part in preventing it. But you're right. There is, I mean, sometimes you just can't stop a torn ACL if somebody hits the turf wrong or whatever. Here's Jason A-Team. Do we think Eagles would sign Phillips after this year? Trading a third for him is a lot to just have him for half a season. It's fascinating what they will do. I'm with you, A-Team. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I hope you were listening early because I think I hit every crook and cranny of it. But bottom line is he's got to play well down the stretch of the season. But for now, he's a rental, and that's why the people who think it's a bad trade think it's a bad trade because, as I explained, if you have a third-round pick from a business perspective, the way NFL executives think about it, you're getting a guy for 68 games. The Eagles are getting a guy for 9 games and the playoffs, whatever extent of the playoffs, because they're obviously going to be in the playoffs. And if they let him walk, but there are different, as I said, there are different levels of NFL franchises. I'm calling it life cycles. The Eagles are a legitimate contender. I don't care about 17 games in 2027 right now. I'm trying to get over the top, so to get a good player at a position of obvious need makes sense to me. If you're whoever's going to be the 7 seed in the NFC, so maybe it's right now, I think it would be Chicago, 8 seed, whatever. No, it's 8. I think it's Chicago right now. If you're Chicago, they're not, they might make it, they might not. Great story, great improvement. Ben Johnson finally got them going in the right direction. But they're not a legitimate contender. If they make a trade like that, I think it's a bad trade. It's obviously a bad trade for a bad team who's not going to make the playoffs. For the team at the top of the table, to use a soccer term, it's a good trade at a position of need. Different life cycle.
It's 7 teams, John, not 8, right? Yeah, 7.
7. I'm losing it.
You had it right.
Yeah.
And you went 8, and I'm thinking, I'm like, oh,
I'm losing it. Who's 7 right now? Yeah, I'm losing it. The NFL.
Detroit's 7 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
there's one. Yeah, I'm losing my mind, but yeah. So whoever is 7 right now, I think it's Chicago. I might be wrong.
Chicago's 8.
Chicago's 8.
Yeah,
That's why I was thinking about Chicago. I thought Chicago was the last team. So Detroit right now is 7. But that's crazy. But yeah, they're a little bit different because they have a higher upside.
Well, and they have the tough division they're in. I mean, they're 5-3, and they're not. But
that's
the Bears are right there.
But my point stands. A team like Chicago, to me, Detroit's different than Chicago. But for Detroit at a position of need, I would advocate for them as well. For Chicago, I would not. I would rather have the 68 games in this particular instance. And obviously, the Eagles are at the top. So I think their life cycle is different than the Chicago Bears, which is the point I'm trying to make. But I know people are people, and they'll say, I'm talking about the Chicago Bears.
Yeah,
they have a different life cycle.
Here's Jim Adams. What's up, Jim? The best bye week I can remember. Me and you both, Jim. This has been an amazing bye week for the Philadelphia Eagles for sure.
Yeah, well, everything went their way. you know, the Eagles are more concerned about their business because you can't control other games, but everything did go their way. But, you know, for the Eagles, it's about getting better, and they've gotten better. So I think that's the more important part of it. Other than it was a good week for things out of your control, which is not typically relevant for NFL coaches. They're worried about handling their own business.
Good stuff there. Junior checks in. Dak Zesty Scott back in prime form. I don't even know what the hell that means. Dak Zesty Scott. But
you know, people get so up and so down. Somebody has a good game. Somebody has a bad game. Good game, you're the best ever. Bad game, you're the worst ever. Josh Sweat was all over him, all night. Go block the guy. But
Here's
it's always
Blaze.
quarterback. It's always quarterback.
Yeah.
Go block Josh Sweat.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have a feeling Howie makes one more move today. I don't know what to feel. I feel like it could come, but I also feel like Howie could be happy with where he is.
Well, I expect a move with a guy leaving. So does that count? I assume he means somebody coming in. I'll tell you what, you guys are greedy, man. I mean, what do you want? You know, I heard
wait. This is a perfect follow-up to you saying we're greedy. Have y'all heard anything about Minkah Fitzpatrick to us?
I heard about Minkah to the Cowboys, but that they traded for Logan Wilson. Typical Jerry Jones over.
Yeah.
What do you got against Drew Makuba? I mean, is it that like you really want 30-year-old Minkah Fitzpatrick over a young kid who's like this is the juggling part of it. Like, you know, I don't even like the fact that it doesn't look like Jihad Campbell is going to play as much. And you want to shut everything down, and you want to say, and now have Makuba sit as well to get Minkah Fitzpatrick. Yeah, there's a lot of greediness.
James, good stuff. Here's
now
the Eagles are riding on a perfect storm to repeat.
Well, they're one of the legitimate Super Bowl, and there aren't a lot of them. You're talking maybe 5 teams, and they're one of them. So they're going to have a chance, no doubt about it. Yeah, they're going to have a chance, and they have a better chance now with Phillips.
And Martine says, curious, how come those interior O lineman trades don't really happen at the deadline? Is the ramp up more difficult for them to learn a new system?
Well, yeah, chemistry is a big thing with the offensive line, but there's not a lot of teams with a ton of offensive line depth. Number one. So usually when you have good offensive linemen, you try to hang on to them. So it's not a position that people want to trade. It's not a position where people outside are going to value it because they know if you want to trade them, they're probably not that good. And yeah, there is obviously the better teams you see every year, the better teams when it comes to offensive line usually have relatively healthy seasons, good players, and chemistry that those good players have playing together. So, you know, there'll probably be some offensive line trades today, but not relevant ones. I know Washington's looking to unload some people, I think. So, but not helpful, I don't think, for the teams acquiring them.
Yeah. Here's Dank. What's up, Dank? Logan Wilson to Dallas. Are they back? I don't know about that.
Logan Wilson. Now, Logan got benched in Cincinnati, which is the worst defense on the planet. So I wouldn't be too concerned about Logan.
What'd they give up for Logan? 6-round pick, 7th round pick?
7th, I believe.
7th rounder. It's not bad for them, I guess. I mean, Logan was a decent player when he was good, but he did get benched this year. That's kind of what happened, right? It's what happened. He was low on playing time now. After
He was benched, and again, the worst defense in the NFL, he was benched by. So take it for what you will.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, good stuff there, Johnny Mac. John, I want to get into a little bit of how you see Jaelan Phillips on the field. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but I do want to dive into it and kind of give it its own segment so people can know what to expect when Jaelan Phillips takes the field. We've had a lot of edge rushers, John, who are either undersized, they're good at one thing, or they can set the edge and they don't rush the passer well, or they rush the passer well, they can't set the edge. And Vic likes a specific style of edge rusher. So I do want to get into that. I want to welcome and thank everybody for being here. We got a good crowd in here today. Yesterday we had a massive day with the likes, with the comments, with the subscribes, with everything. So we appreciate everybody for being here today. A couple more super chats I will get to, and then we'll get to the Jaelan Phillips on the field conversation. 1 second here. Let me just send that to my editor. All right, good stuff here. Eduardo says, "Here's a curveball for y'all. We signed Gardner Johnson and dropped B Ship in the offseason, hypothetically speaking." I think Gardner Johnson just signed with somebody. The Bears,
yeah,
right?
he did. Chicago.
The Bears. Yeah.
But I mean, he'll be a free agent after the season again if you want to bring him back. But I don't think the Eagles want to bring him back. I think you can shut the door on CJ.
Yeah, me too. Dirty Air says, purely hypothetical fantasy. Realistically, who do you want to see show up today? I'm thinking that Njoku would be a solid pickup.
Come on. What? Ah, greediness. I mean, what you're bringing in David.
Why was that so crazy to you? I thought they benched him kind of.
You're bringing in David Njoku to be a second tight end? What are we doing here, guys? Stop with the big names. Stop with the big names.
Got benched. Didn't he get benched?
I don't know what's going on in Cleveland, but he ain't going to be happy with his role here. I guarantee you that. No. Plus, I'd have to look up his contract, but that's one I don't even think about because, he's also older. Yeah, I mean, what are we doing here? Come on, guys.
Dirty Air, you just got grilled by J Mac, my friend.
What? You can't. There's roles. Role players are called role players for a reason. You don't just get 3 great tight ends and say, "This is my first tight end. This is my second tight end." It doesn't work that way. Dallas Cowder's having an amazing year. The Eagles found something with Fred Johnson and 12 personnel.
I think people look at Njoku for the blocking, to be honest with you, because Grant Calcaterra can't block a traffic cone.
Well, he can't block. This is a guy who's caught over the last 3 years. I just pulled it up: 58, 81, and 64 balls. You think he's going to be happy picking up the lunch pail and being a blocking tight end who never touches the football?
No, I don't.
I mean, come on. I don't want to pick on people. It's always the big names. It drives me insane. All right. Yeah, we all know the name.
He was a big name, is he? I guess he is.
He is in the realm of the NFL.
All right.
I'll tell you what, he's impressive physically, but it's also from Jersey. Yeah.
Is he Jersey
originally?
Guy?
He's Jersey.
Cedar Grove High School, I think. He's a Miami guy as well, University of Miami.
Yeah. No, I'm going a hard no on David and Joe.
All right, a hard no from John. Dirty Air, sorry, brother, love you. Blaze says Nolan and Phillips are both good at setting the edge and pursuing the run. This will help our D much more than just a dominant pass rusher.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. Jalen is not known for setting the edge.
I did see somebody put out a statistic about him being good against the run. Now that might be different than setting the edge, but
yeah, I don't know who put that out, but no, that is not the book on Jaelan Phillips. Interesting this year. The interesting thing about this year, Miami was using him inside as a pass rusher in obvious pass rushing situations, which was a change and But the Eagles don't do that. They don't need that. So I don't see that. But it's just another card to put in the deck. This year he's 18th of 107 when it comes to the pass rush. 96 of 117 when it comes to setting the edge, run support. But you know where this fits in, which I think a lot of people don't realize, no matter how many times I bring it up, and Vic has said this on multiple occasions, Jalen Hunt is better in run support than he is as a pass rusher at this stage of his career, which I don't think anybody saw coming, even Vic. But when he had to play last year, he was very impressed with how he held up in run support. Still needs a lot of work, still needs a lot of sharpening when it comes to technique and fundamentals on the pass rush. So you can envision where Jalix is the early down player and Jaelan Phillips comes in as the pass rusher. And Vic can work it that way, which I think is eventually how it will unfold. And that helps you in two fronts. It lightens the load on both of them. So you don't have somebody out there playing Max Crosby numbers as far as playing time and snap counts. And Jalen does have a significant injury history. So you want to somewhat limit his snaps. And if you work it that way, you'll be able to do it. And so you have Nolan, Jalix, if Nolan comes back, and Brandon Graham, who are really good run support players. I don't think Jalix is as good as Nolan or Brandon. And we'll see what Brandon has left. We got to see. And then you have two really good pass rushers in Phillips and Uche. And plus, Nolan can do both. You might really have something cooking if you work it that way. But no, he's not known for his run support. It's a pass rush.
So do you think Nolan's still the top guy then in that room because of his ability to do both?
Well, depends how you want to grade it. But no,
I mean, if Nolan's going to be your every down guy and Jalen and Jalix are rotating with Jalix setting the edge early and Jaelan Phillips, on third down and long, doesn't that kind of show you that Nolan would be the main guy in the room?
Well, it depends on your definition. I mean, if Jaelan Phillips comes here and gets 10 sacks, he's the impact guy. He's the headliner.
Well, he did have a good season with Vic Fangio, John. He had 8 games, 6.5 sacks, 43 tackles, 1 int, and 2 pass breakups with Fangio in those 8 games before he got hurt.
If you're talking about who plays the most, just that's your definition. Well, yeah, I don't think it's going to be Phillips. I think it's going to be Smith if he's healthy, or Hunt, because I think they'll be early down players, and one of them's got to play third down as well. Hopefully that would be Nolan, but I got to see if Nolan can get back. So I don't think he's going to be the top guy from a playing snap perspective, Jaelan Phillips, but I think he's going to be the top guy from an impact perspective in the pass rush.
Blaze, good stuff. Appreciate it. That kind of started us on the conversation with Jaelan Phillips and kind of what the usage is in the offense. I guess a big piece of the puzzle, John. If we can just envision or speculate that Nolan won't be back for Green Bay, what do you think it would look like with the pass rush?
Well, it's also early with Phillips, but I do think they're going to put him out there because of his history with Vic, because he's, but they'll ramp him up. They won't be at his full optimum level. And, they've been working with 3 essentially, and some Jihad Campbell getting the overlap snaps. So, they had been working with Jalix Hunt and Josh Uche and Patrick Johnson, and now you have Brandon back in the mix and Jaelan Phillips. So, but if he's not there for Green Bay, yeah, I think it'll be I think it'll be those 5 guys. And Jihad, unfortunately, which is a conversation we have to have. I don't see any reps for him now that you've repopulated the position, and it's only going to get deeper if Nolan does get back when Nolan gets back. So that's a concern. But, Patrick Johnson would sort of be the one that, goes back to special teams. And it'll be Hunt, it'll be Uche, it'll be Graham, it'll be Phillips.
So what is the outlook for Jihad Campbell right now?
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't. That's the one thing I don't like, which I've said pretty consistently.
Yeah.
I think he's going to play in nickel, and that's it. Nickel linebacker. Nakobe handles the base. So a lot of it depends on.
Will Vic want that? Will Vic be okay with changing, with the rotational linebacker like that?
Well, he's the one doing it, so I guess he's okay with it.
I mean, there's obviously some downsides to it, but
well, he doesn't like it. He said it's not a rotational position, but he wants to get Nakobe on the field. He loves him. I love him. What's not to love? But I just love Jihad Campbell a little bit more. And I don't think he did anything to merit limited play. If I were Vic, and I know fans don't want that, but if I were Vic and I wanted to go that route, I would have waited till he had a bad game. He's probably going to have a bad game. I mean, superstars have bad games. He's a rookie. He's going to have a bad game. But I would have waited for that bad game. I haven't seen that. And now it's already limited, and his playing time's already limited, and now it's going to be curbed even more now that you take away the edge snaps and edge opportunities, where, by the way, hasn't been playing well on the edge. He's not ready to play on the edge. Shouldn't be playing on the edge. I have no problem with that. But at off-ball linebacker, dude was playing lights out. So, but good problem to have, as they say.
Is it as simple as they want to stop the run better with Nakobe Dean on the field?
Yeah, I'm sure that's a big part of it. Yeah. And they want to try to piecemeal it because Jihad's a better athlete and better in pass coverage. But, he was also making plays in other aspects of the game. And he's great sort of mismatch when you do want to blitz from the second level, especially when paired with Zach Bond. So, I mean, they have a good player either way. I just think he's got a chance to be a superstar, and I don't want to derail that. But, coaches tend to be more comfortable with veteran players. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but doesn't that kind of fit into what you've been saying? Like, this team is looking to win. They can't look to 26 and 27. Jihad Campbell is obviously the future.
Well, that's a big difference than guys who've been here in the spring and summer and have learned and have started for 8 games and gotten you in the position that you're in. Not only Campbell but Makuba for a certain extent. But Campbell's played much better at his position than Makuba's played at his position. Like he's already proven some things, or he should have proven some things. He's not coming in from another situation. He's been here the whole time. And look, if the Eagles didn't have Nakobe Dean, he'd be playing. They happen to have another good linebacker.
Yeah, right. That's why I kind of just default on Nakobe, because I trust Vic. I mean, how am I gonna tell Vic he's wrong about what linebacker he's playing?
Well, that's my job, and you got to stand up to even the best coaches, because nobody's perfect and nobody gets 100%. And I do the same thing with Howie. When everybody wants to give Howie's flowers, I give Howie's flowers when he deserves it, and when he doesn't, I tell people, hey, tone it down a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. But
Well,
yeah,
there's a chance you're wrong on Dean and Campbell.
there's a chance I'm wrong. There's a chance they're wrong.
Yeah,
But that's
absolutely.
what I'm here to do, is give my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my opinion. No,
I'm not mad at you for your opinion. I'm just throwing out, my thought process.
you can go back to the Jody days, and I love Nakobe Dean, and not as much as Jody, but I love the player. But there's a difference between Nakobe Dean and Jihad Campbell when it comes to upside. And Jihad Campbell was showing that he could get to his upside pretty damn quickly. And I personally would not want to derail that. Now, to the point about Fitzpatrick, if Fitzpatrick was here already, yeah, I'm not playing Bakuba. I'll tell you that. But that ain't close. Campbell is played better than Nakobe in his time at off ball. So to me, it's different.
Yeah, and he's obviously really good in coverage too, Jihad Campbell. I don't know how Nakobe Dean is in coverage right now, or grading out in coverage. I know that's not the end all be all, but it is still a metric that's used. Yeah, I mean, it looks like right now, Jihad's much better in coverage. So is that really what it comes down to for you? The upside of the player and coverage and all those other versatile aspects of being a linebacker?
Well, no, he can do everything. I mean, he's a pain in the ass, but also his size, just as people were bringing up Shaq Leonard because he was here at the end of his career as a trade that didn't work out. Because he had back surgery and he was shot physically. But in his prime, he was the best linebacker in football. The best. I mean, number one. Very similar to Jair Alexander at corner. And that's why some people were bringing it up. It happens quickly in the NFL. So Shaq Leonard was just phenomenal for years. And one of his strengths was he was 6'2", and he was this big, just long pain in the ass that you couldn't get the football around in coverage. Because his wingspan was so big and he was so athletic. And, as I said, I think it was a 4-time All-Pro, yada, yada, yada. It was, for a long stretch, he was the best linebacker in football. That's what I see the upside for Jihad Campbell. Same body type, just a pain in the ass. Quarterbacks cannot get the football around them. And then they just overwhelm running backs in pass protection if you want to blitz them. We talked about, Detroit losing. Jahmyr Gibbs probably had his worst game in his professional year because they went after him in pass protection. They just cross-dog, blitzed him all freaking afternoon. Couldn't hold up. That's what you can do with Bowen and Campbell if you wanted to. Just creates mismatches because of his size and his athleticism, his length. I mean, that's the guy I'm trading people to get him on the field if I couldn't get him on the field. And they're taking him off the field. It looks that way. I don't agree with it. I will die on that hill.
Well, based on how Jihad Campbell has started his career, it doesn't look like you're wrong, but I do think Nakobe, I don't know. Eye test to me tells me Nakobe's done a good job on the defense as well. It's kind of one of those things where, I don't know, pick your poison, I guess you could say. I mean, I don't think you're going wrong either way, to be honest with you, John.
Yeah, well, I think you got the next Shaq Leonard, so I'm going to respectfully disagree.
Yeah, but if he's not there right now, I mean, what does that do for the 25 season?
No evidence that he wasn't. Then wait for the bad game because he hasn't had it yet at linebacker.
No, he hasn't. Blaze says Nolan and Phillips can both drop in the flats. Does Vic make Phillips just a pure pass rusher and let Nolan drop sometimes, or do they both do it?
Yeah, I was talking. Well, everybody does it. Number one, in Vic, the question is not that do they do it effectively? That's the question. Everybody does it in Vic's And anybody, that's one of my pet peeves too. Like everybody can line up anywhere. Everybody can they do it effectively? Vic is going to drop his edge rushers, every single one of them at times. Some do it better than others, to say the least. I have a friend who covers the Dolphins who says it was not a strength of Phillips when he was there, when Vic was there. But we'll talk to Vic at some point. I don't think we're going to get him this week. I think he's about the pass rush. I think forget about the other stuff. He's about the pass. He's here to rush the passer. That doesn't mean he doesn't have to be acceptable as a run support player, acceptable dropping in the flats, but I wouldn't focus on that. He's here to rush the passer. That's his job. And I think he's going to do it well.
Blaze, good stuff. Appreciate it, brother. Here's Christopher Michael. Looking way ahead. If Phillips pans out and we re-sign him to a long-term deal, do we focus on the O-line in the draft early as well as corner? I think you're going to have to get a Lane Johnson replacement soon here.
Yeah, well, they've been looking for a Lane Johnson replacement for years.
Yeah, but they haven't pulled the trigger. I think you're now in crunch time where you can't just look. You got to fucking do it.
Well, you can't. Well, that's the part of it. I mean, they would have done it. They would have pulled the trigger, but you're at the mercy of other teams as well, especially when you're drafting where the Eagles draft. But yes, there's going to be more of a sense of urgency. It might be if they win another one. I would lean towards Lane walking away. So it might really increase, and you might have to go. But look, you're not. It's one of those things about being spoiled. You're not getting the next Lane Johnson. I don't care who it is. So you're going to have to go about things in a different way. You want to find a good player. You want to find a player that can solidify the spot. Certainly, you're not finding the next Lane Johnson. That might be the best right tackle ever. That's not hyperbole. He's in the conversation.
Well, then what do you do? I mean, I understand what you're saying. You're not going to get another Hall of Famer, in the end of the first round, but at least most likely you're not. But
you want to
do something.
Yeah, you want a Jason Kelsey, Cam Jurgens situation. That's your hope. That's your goal.
They might have paid Cam early.
Well,
to say it,
I don't think there's anything wrong with Cam other than health, and I think he'll get.
Well, that's a big part of it. No.
Well, he'll get better. Already you're seeing Landon. You say, how do you get better when you're playing? Yeah, you do.
Well, what's worse, a knee surgery or a back surgery?
Depends on the back surgery. I mean, I just talked about a guy. It should. I just talked about a guy whose career was derailed by back surgery, Shaq Leonard. But there's other guys who have back surgery and they're fine. It's a very weird, and you don't know how serious it is. You don't know. But I think Cam has shown enough to say that he's probably going to be okay down the road, when he's further off the surgery. Because he's not been terrible. He's been competent. Whereas, you saw somebody like Shaq Leonard, a lot of Shaq Leonard talk. Somebody like he fell off a table.
Yeah. Remember when he came here? I think he was a free agent in the middle of the season, wasn't he?
Oh yeah. Jody and I still remember the discussions. Jody would say, because the Cowboys were talking, you have to get Shaq Leonard. You have to get him. I'm like, really? Why do we have to? Yeah. I mean, life moves. I say it all the time. The same thing with Jair. Life moves fast in the NFL. These guys are not forever all pros. And some guys drop off the table. Shaq dropped off the table. This is what I remember about Shaq Leonard. Cleanest, neatest guy I've ever met in the NFL. His locker was impeccable.
Wow, really?
And the day he left, you didn't even know he was there. There wasn't a speck of dust in that locker.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Here's Curtis. Curtis says, Z, can you ask J-Mac if Lane is in Myles Garrett's ballpark?
Woo! That's a good question.
I mean, if you're calling him one of the best right tackles or in the conversation, you got to at least say he's in there, right?
Nick has told me in the past that the biggest mismatch athletically on the field in an NFL game is defensive line versus offensive line, because the defensive line, those guys are monster athletes, and the offensive line tend to be guys who are not quite as athletic, to say the least. Lane's a little bit different. He might be, when I say he's probably the best athlete at right tackle ever. But he ain't Myles Garrett from an athletic standpoint. So it's at his position, he's every bit as good as Myles. Myles is like otherworldly. I can't even explain to you how other players talk about Myles Garrett, including Lane Johnson, by the way.
I think Myles Garrett might be the best player I've ever seen play football. Personally, I'm a young guy. I mean, I haven't seen, some of the guys.
Well, I always talk about there's certain guys that are, I talk about this all the time. There's certain guys who their peers are in awe of them. And all NFL players are great athletes and great players to get to that position. So when they're in awe of you, you're a little bit different.
Right.
Myles is obviously in that category. I've had Saquon's in that category. And sometimes they're not as good. Like Michael Vick's in that category, and great player, but not historic at his position. Great player, but athletically, it's usually the great athletes. So it comes down to does he do his job better? And they're both probably top 5, so at their particular positions, I think.
Yeah,
ever.
Tough to compare.
And I'm talking
Good
not
question, Curtis.
Current. I'm talking ever. So it's a good question, but it won't be viewed that way because Myles is the superior athlete just because of the position he plays. And Lane's
really
playing
sucks that
position.
his whole career is in Cleveland. It really sucks. Just as a football fan, I mean, it really sucks. I'd love to see that guy in the biggest moments.
Yeah, man, he's like a predator on ice skates running through the grass.
He's crazy, man.
That was the Cam Jurgens.
That was Cam. Wait, I got some people beating on my door. Johnny Mac. I'm gonna have to take a break here and go let them in. See what's going on down there. A couple super chats here. Park says Ringo is getting better, just more playing time. Well, John still has Ringo as the potential guy to start at corner. No.
Yeah, I think he's the starter in Green Bay. And look, he's got a short leash, obviously, because he's been the starter before and he's played poorly. And then he gets benched and Adoree comes in and he gets hurt and Kelly's back in there. But he's coming off his best game. Again, it's the New York Giants, so take it for what it is. But he will start in Green Bay, and that'll probably be a big test for him. And if he holds up, I think he'll start the next week. And if he plays well, he'll stay on the field.
Yeah. All right, John, get ready to get mad at our next chatter. C-Sis says, Adoree and a pick for Mark Andrews. Get us a good, cheap blocking tight end.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I knew that one. I knew you weren't going to like that one, John.
What? I mean, what? Why would Baltimore want Adoree Jackson? And give up, by the way, Mark Andrews isn't what he once was, but he's one of the great players in franchise history. You
don't think Adoree Jackson gets the deal done for Mark Andrews, John?
I do not.
Come on, sis.
I do not. And Baltimore, by the way, also is going to win that division. So, I mean, I don't think they're looking to be sellers. Mark isn't the player he once was, but he's still a security blanket. And Lamar's back. He's been a security blanket for Lamar Jackson for a long time. He had the big drop in the playoffs, which killed them last year. But they're going to win that division, and they're going to go to the playoffs, probably not be in the position that they wanted to be in from a seed standpoint, obviously. But I truly
Do you still think the Ravens are going to beat the Steelers?
I do.
Steelers.
Steelers got a big win
Colts.
last week, which I did not expect. So that helped us. But the Steelers haven't been playing well. If you look at,
I know they're 5-3. The Ravens are 3-5, so they're going to need a big turnaround. But
it's not that big. They've already
got
back
Lamar
into
Jackson
it.
back.
I mean,
so
they were
that's
1-5. They've already won 2 straight.
Yeah,
They're playing, JJ McCarthy next week. I think they're going to win that game. They're gonna be in it pretty quickly. So, and they probably don't want to Dory Jackson.
Is Joe Burrow coming back anytime soon?
No.
Is he done for the year?
Most likely, not officially, but
Yeah.
it's hard. The only way he'd be able to come back is if they make the playoffs, which they're not going to.
Yeah, right.
And then he could potentially come back for very, very, late in the season playoffs.
Yeah.
And they're not making the playoffs.
All right, good stuff, everybody. Hit that like button. I got to go get the door. I don't know who's down there. Let me go and check this out. We'll take a quick commercial break.
Hopefully it's not the authorities, but all right, check that out.
All right, I don't think it's that. Probably some appliance guy or something. Good stuff. Hit the like button, everybody. We'll be right back. And coming up in about 6 minutes here on the show, we're going to have Les Bowen, who's going to join us here. So going to be good to hear from Les and see what he thinks of the Eagles trade deadline moves. 3 trades going into the deadline for Howie Roseman. We'll talk about it all with Les Bowen. Coming up next here on Birds 365.
Ignite your nights with free live entertainment daily, only at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia's Center Bar. 7 days a week, enjoy some of the region's top party bands, performers, and DJs as they take the stage in the heart of the casino action. Great cocktails, live music, and lively moments. It's all happening at Center Bar at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. Visit livecasinophilly.com for more details and the complete list of upcoming events. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is Eric. When he got injured in a car accident, he called Morgan & Morgan. He not only gets a lawyer, he gets trial lawyers like Sam and Jessica, who are in it to win it. He gets his own investigators with briefcases, leather ones. And if you ever have questions, our customer service folks keep things rolling. Injured? We're your army. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
Welcome to the Jet Setters and the High Rollers, to the Shot Takers and the Tastemakers. Welcome to the Viewfinders, the Thrill Seekers, and the Night Owls. Welcome to everything you could possibly want on one 5-mile island. Welcome to the Wildwoods. Book your stay today.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We go the extra mile to lend a helping hand. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong. We've been deeply rooted in our communities for more than 85 years. And that connection to members has earned us our spot as the #1 health insurer in the region. So while you look out for your neighbors, know IBX is always looking out for you.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Tuesday trade deadline day edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen. Give us a follow on X at Zander Krause and at JF McMullen. Johnny Mac, trade deadline today. It's what, 4 p.m. Eastern, right? Or 4:30 or 4?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock Eastern. What do you put in the percentage at another move, even if it's a small move?
I'm going 85%. I think it's more likely create room to get
85%. So they're going to make another move.
Yeah, but I think it's out. not
Out.
in.
Right. Sending somebody out.
Yeah.
I don't know who's worth
Yeah,
some stuff.
I'm talking 7th round pick. I'm talking very low level. Just get a guy out to create a roster spot. They got to create 2 roster spots or 1 if you don't, and 1 should be AJ Dillon, so that should be relatively, you don't need, but I don't know why you need all these corners. You know, the trades for the trades for Michael Carter and Jair Alexander indicate you don't have a lot of confidence in the depth that's here. So why are you carrying them all on the roster if you don't have any confidence in them? Now it could just be just as simple as releasing somebody like a Dory Jackson. It could just be something as simple as that. But Howie likes to do stuff, and Jacorian Bennett's the guy I look at because I'm like, why do you need him at this point? And he's young and he's fast, and somebody will give you a 7th round pick for that guy.
You think that's the way they'd go? Somewhere like that?
That's what I'm thinking. No more splashes, though.
No, yeah, I don't think so either. We'll see what they end up doing. What moves they make. We're going to talk to Les Bowen here in a little bit on Birds 365. Looking forward to talking to Les and seeing what he takes. He thought the Eagles paid a little rich for Jaelan Phillips, I think is what he put out there, or at least just a big price. So we'll get kind of his perspective on that. But the one thing you can't knock, John, is the Eagles do go for it, man. They have an aggressive approach, and I put that out yesterday. That's the one thing you can want if you're a fan, I think. You just want your team to go for it when they have an opportunity or the window is there. And Howie certainly does that. Doesn't mean he makes every right move, but he certainly does go for it and put us in a good position to try and, go back and run it back.
Yeah, I mean, that's different life cycles. That's what I said. They're a contender. So
that's the word of the week, life cycles.
They operate well. I think everybody, and it's one of Howie's pet peeves. I know for a fact. Everybody thinks things are in a vacuum in this league. Not everybody, but the vast majority of fans and even a lot of media members think everything's in a vacuum, and that's how I explain. Like for Miami, that's a smart thing to do. For the Eagles, they're in a different life cycle. They have a different end game in mind. The Miami Dolphins are trying to reboot, and from their perspective, think about from Miami's perspective, they get that 3rd round pick. So in theory, if you do your job, and who knows who's going to be doing that job, it might not even be Champ Kelly, and it might not be Mike McDaniel. But whomever they hire, wherever they go, they got a guy for 68 regular season games that they do their job versus a guy where you have 9 games left in a season where you're going nowhere, or 8 games, whatever they have. They're going absolutely nowhere. And guess what? If things don't work out here and he goes to free agency, they can go sign him in free agency if they love him that much and get in it and do it that way. So from the Dolphins, it makes perfect sense. Eagles are in a different life cycle. They're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. They need a edge rusher. I don't care about 17 special teams games in 2027. I don't care about that if I'm the Eagles. I'm in the Les Snead mode of F them picks. Go get another one. The window's open.
I'm with you. Let's see what Les Bowen thinks about that. Les Bowen set to join us right here on Birds 365. You can follow him at Les Bowen. Les, welcome to the program, man. How you doing on a Tuesday trade deadline day edition of the show?
Doing just great, Zander. John, how you doing?
Good, Les. Happy election day to you.
Yes.
So I saw you bandying back and forth, a little bit, pricey from the little conventional wisdom of the NFL for Jaelan Phillips. I don't know how early you got in the green room. If you heard my little explanation, that's my thought. I don't want to muddy the waters for you. Your thoughts on the trade?
Yeah, I like it. All I said was, this is, you and I have talked about social media and people's reactions before, but what I think I said was, gee, they gave up a lot, but I guess Vic Fangio knows this guy a lot better than I do, having coached him in Miami in 2023. You would have thought I had impugned his mother's character. I mean, it was people just, how dare I, say something like, well, they gave up a lot. A third round pick is valuable, and the response is just go deep into the weeds about, well, we'll get a third round compensatory pick if he signs somewhere else in free. No, you have to
Nobody understands that. My pet peeve, Les. Nobody understands how the
I think we should all have Jimmy Kempski killed for telling people how important compensatory picks are important.
Jimmy.
But
Jimmy knows how they work, though. But I think people don't listen to the explanation.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. I mean, Jimmy does a great
job. I know
job.
you don't want to murder, but
it's people have gotten care. There are some people out there who seem to think the point of football is compensatory picks at this point. But you don't get a compensatory pick for him until 2027 anyway, and it's probably, if he plays so well that he signs a contract that would give him, it would make him worthy of a third round compensatory pick, the Eagles are going to re-sign him, I would think.
Yeah, you would
26
think.
years old, But all that aside, it's a pretty good trade. It's the best trade of the three trades he's made going into the deadline. The two corners are kind of a little more of what they have, which they certainly needed, but I'm not sure they found a real CB2 in either of those guys. But this is, Jaelan Phillips is probably, if he can stay healthy, as good as Jalix Hunt. He's not Myles Garrett or even Bradley Chubb, his Miami teammate. He's not Trey Hendrickson. He's not, but who knows what the availability. I mean, we know Myles Garrett probably wasn't available because the Browns let it be known. But it's a good move. It's a good move. It will help if he can stay healthy. It's hard to make a big move at the trade deadline. There's only been one really in recent Eagles history, and that was Jay Ajayi.
Does he help the pass rush as much as we need him to help the pass rush?
Well, that's the thing.
Weakness
That's
of the
thing,
defense.
Zander. That's the thing. People get real excited when they see that a deal's been made and they're sure that everybody that comes here is going to be the next this or that. And I don't know. I mean, I think he's as good as what they have, and they certainly needed more with all the injuries. Does he really move the needle? That's a good question. I think Nolan Smith, whenever he comes back, and I would love to have a good time frame on that, will move the needle.
Yeah.
And I think Brandon Graham, is kind of in the same category as Phillips and Jalix Hunt. I think he'll be better than some of what we've seen out there.
Yeah, the Nolan stuff is interesting because I don't think it's a good sign if his practice window isn't started this week, and the Eagles will push that off and it's an extra day now, so it'll probably be Thursday before we know if that practice window is going to get started.
Yeah.
It's 21 days, so if it doesn't get started, then I start to get concerned.
Yes. I think the premise when he went down was, well, in mid-season or so, he'll be right back, and not close.
What I like is the bit from Phillips' standpoint, because I think he is a pass rusher first and foremost. Whereas I think, and this is something that is surprising to me, because I think when Vic, I was surprised when Vic said it last year, and he first intimated that because of what Jalix Hunt was portrayed as coming out of the draft, everybody said, well, he's a developmental pass rusher. And he's got this big upside if you can tap into it. And Vic said very early on when he was forced to play him, he's pretty good against the run. And he's way ahead of where he was as a pass rusher, where he still needed a lot of technique work, needed to add moves to his bag, as they say.
Yeah.
And I think that's still the case. So if you manipulate it the best way and Jalix plays early downs and Phillips comes in as the third and long guy, maybe you really got something going as far as And I think this is what the cornerbacks do as well. Optionality for, I hate using that word because it brings up memories of Sam Hinkie, but giving big options is what this trade deadline was about for Howie.
Yeah.
Is that how you look at it?
Yeah, it was, but it's important. Everybody wants to throw a parade for every trade Howie makes.
I know. It's so annoying.
And it seems, nothing. I mean, obviously he's doing a wonderful job, but we don't know that any of these guys is really going to make a huge impact. And the corners, like I said, the corners are kind of, I was a little bit with Jair Alexander. The first seconds of that, I thought, oh, Jair Alexander.
Yeah. Big name trap, Les. Big name trap.
Well, not just that, but I thought, he's had some injuries. Maybe he just needed a longer runway to get over these injuries. But then, people who are closer to it than I am kind of said, nah, he's just not the same guy he was before he got hurt. And, that's a shame because Jair Alexander 3 years ago would have been one heck of an acquisition at the trade.
Yeah. Oh, my God. 2020, I think he was the best cornerback in football. But, boy, that's like dog years in the NFL.
It really is. It really is. I hope he helps, but I think it's fair to wish that, and we're not at the trade deadline yet. Maybe Howie's got something else going. Who knows? But I think it's fair to wonder if they could have done a little more, but they did in volume. They certainly did a lot. And it's possible, Phillips will be the guy that will have the biggest impact, I would think. And he can, he's good. I mean, he's not great, but he's good. And, he could certainly play a big role here down the stretch.
Les, tell me if I'm wearing eagle-colored glasses or if I'm being objective enough. It feels like going into week 10 here, the Eagles have the best chance to come out of the NFC this year. And maybe it's Eagle glasses, but I look around the league, I see a lot of injuries on a lot of the best teams. I think the Eagles have the advantage when it comes to, playing in big games, experience in the biggest moments, obviously being to 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years. And even less, the other thing I'll say is, even when the Eagles don't play their best, and they haven't really played their best really any games this year, they seem to find ways to win. That Bucks game, that Rams game. I know they had the 2 losses, but they find ways to win in games where they're not their best. I feel like the Eagles right now have the best chance in the NFC. It's only week 10. It could change by week 12.
Right.
But I think right now the Eagles look like they have a good chance. What say you?
Well, Zander, the results of this past weekend lend a lot of credence to that. It was an extraordinary. Not only did the other 3 NFC East teams all lose,
unbelievable,
including Dallas last night, not even looking real, sharp.
How about Josh Sweat last night, Les?
Yeah, that's a shame. And that's another tangent. I won't go on right now, but remind me. I'll come back to it. But, those 3 teams lost, plus Green Bay and Detroit both lost. And Green Bay lost, and you don't exult over this, but Green Bay lost one of their best players in Kraft, the tight end, for the season. So really, you look at it now, and Green Bay, Eagles, let me get my words. Detroit, there we go. Finally got the right D word. And San Francisco, I think, even though San Francisco is the Joel Embiid of the NFL. I think those are the teams, and it's going to be ridiculously hard for anybody to keep the Eagles from winning the NFC East. This is not I wanted to go back. I haven't had time to do that yet this morning and look at this point in the season when every team in the league had at least 2 losses. I mean, there's no team that's
there's no dominant team,
right.
There's no.
It's extraordinary. It really is. There's nobody that hasn't had just a real stinker of a game against somebody.
And the AFC is worse than the NFC. I mean, the AFC's got. I don't know.
Another thing that happened this weekend, going to the weekend, you're reading the Chiefs have got it all back together now. Nobody's going to beat them now. They're really rolling again. They had a tough start, but now they're the Chiefs again. Well, Buffalo handled them, and it's really pretty incredible. In response to your question, Zander, I think the Eagles are in tremendous position to get back.
They really are.
There's a whole lot of season. There's a half a season left to play, but
and that's why I like to trade, because I think they're in that. I've been calling it life cycles this week. They're in that contender life cycle, and that's when you should make a trade like this. When you're a middling team or a bad team, I would call this a bad trade if you're giving up a 3rd round pick for a player that has an expiring contract, almost like an NBA trade from the Eagles. And by the way, Miami had to pay an extra $5 million for that third round pick. So
I was thinking maybe you could get a few days ago I would have thought maybe you could get Jaelan Phillips for a 4, but is it that huge a difference? No, it certainly isn't.
No. All right, I'll let you go on your Josh Sweat tangent. I want to hear it because, boy, that guy's a good player.
Me too.
And
it's not just a Josh Sweat. It illustrates, people say the salary cap isn't real and you can do anything you want. If the Eagles had Josh Sweat and Milton Williams right now,
oh my God,
tell me who beats them. And these are players that were drafted by the Eagles. There was a time when if somebody left the Eagles, you assumed they were done because they didn't ever let people go that had real value. The reality is you can't, when you have a lot of really good players, when you're a Super Bowl level team year after year, you can't really do that. You have to let people walk who are good players. And those 2 guys, Sweat actually wasn't playing that great last year until the playoffs. I think at the end of the regular season, if you tried to round up fans who wanted to re-sign Josh Sweat for a lot of money, I don't know that you would have found anybody, But then in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl, he was outstanding. And he's carried that on. He's really – this was a guy – I did a lot of stories about him early in his career. This was a guy who – was the number 1 player in the country at any position.
Oh, yeah.
Had a horrific knee injury. The doctor actually talked about amputating his leg in high school. They didn't do that, obviously. And but it took him he was kind of out of position in college. He didn't really get his leg fully back for years and years. And
I know at one point he used to get angry. He kept getting the leg questions, and it was like at one point he just kind of shut it down. He's like, I'm fine.
He would limp. He would limp around the practice.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Early in his career.
Yeah.
But if you ever looked at the guy, and John, you've been in the locker room. I mean, I've never seen a more chiseled.
Oh my God. I still, to your point, I still remember the first day. In those days you could, I remember the rookie camp, you can get players coming off the field.
Yeah.
I still remember the first day I met Josh Sweat because I said, this guy looks like an edge rusher. This guy's like out of Hollywood Central casting.
Maybe even of a different era because he's so much bigger than a lot of edge rushers are now.
He's the closest thing to Myles Garrett the Eagles have ever had physically.
Yes. Yeah, physically, yes. Yeah. And it's a damn shame. I mean, it is. I'm sure they would have loved to have, after the Super Bowl performance, they would have loved to kept him and Williams, who's doing very, very well for a good New England team. You know, one of their best players. You
Well, to
don't
your
hear as
point-
much about him as you do Drake May because he's a defensive tackle, but he's having a wonderful year up there. You know, he's one of their leaders.
To your point, the Eagles had too many good players, which is nice. It's a nice problem to have, but you can't keep everybody. And
if you could, you'd be the Dodgers. You know, I mean, they could. The Eagles could be the Dodgers. They really could if they had that kind of setup.
Yeah.
But you can't defer $1 billion in the NFL.
Now, the one thing, and I want to talk about it because I want your thoughts on this. It seems like certainly Vic Fangio wants Nakobe Dean on the field, which I get. Good player, had a great season, seems to be healthy, amazing comeback from a really significant injury. But boy, Jihad Campbell was playing well at linebacker. And the upside of Jihad Campbell is just enormous to me. You know, this is another good problem. This is a rich people problem in NFL terms. Right. You got two really good players. Where would you go?
Boy, I don't know.
Because the edge snaps are gone, Les. They brought in.
Yeah.
You can't play the edge. I can't put him on the bench. What would Les Bowen do?
Oh, that's a real good question. I might need more time than I have here to think through that. I would try some kind of. I'd make sure nobody gets fatigued out there. You know, you can sub. You know, those Bond and the other linebacker usually play every defensive snap. So I would get him in there. But,
well, that's what Vic's going to do. He's going to play Nakobe in the base and Jihad in the nickel. Looks like that's what he's going to do.
Because I think Jihad's a better pass coverage guy than Nakobe. But I think Nakobe is probably significantly better against the run with better instincts, maybe.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I could be totally wrong about that, but that's kind of my impression.
I think that's how they see it. I think that's how Vic sees it. But when I have a player with that kind of upside, like I don't want to derail. Or as I said to Zander, I'm going to wait at least until he has a bad game, because everybody has bad games, and he's a rookie. He's going to have a bad game, but he hadn't had a bad game.
He hasn't had a bad game, but when they put Nakobe in, I think they got a lot better against the run, and they were really having a problem there.
All right.
In those games they lost, that was keeping their offense off the field for quite a while. But I don't feel that strongly about it. I would love to see more of Jihad, and I hate that the snaps aren't there. I don't think you can play him at safety, or CB2. That would be the other spot. But it is a problem. And it illustrates, I was reading an interesting piece yesterday contending that Vic doesn't have that much say in personnel, that Howie goes out and gets these guys like Edery, Jackson, and Vic.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah,
well, somewhat. But then you look at their drafts and the linebackers, and you can't tell me that.
Well, I do think, and Howie deserves credit, and he's explained this to us, earlier in his career. Maybe he didn't listen to the coaches as much as he should have, but it's a balancing line. But he said pretty consistently, if you're a good GM, you're getting players that your coaches want.
Yeah.
So I think he's learned over the years and I think he's very in tune with what Vic wants. But I think when Vic says minimal, that's the term he used. What's your impact on personnel? He was asked about that in advance of the trade deadline. I do think that's correct.
I just wonder if he knows that he's supposed to say that too. I mean, there are things.
Oh, sure. He's a savvy guy. He's a savvy guy. But I think the relationship, these guys are together, as all year. And, the relationship is real. And Vic imparts what he wants, what he needs, and how he uses that information. But I think that Jalen Reagor pick was the crux for Howie Roseman, where he said, Les, if I'm going to get the shit for these picks, I'm going to pick the guys that I want.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with that, but it is interesting to see that sometimes it seems like they're getting guys like Jaelan Phillips, who is somebody that Vic, probably.
No doubt. To me, it's sort of more layered. It's like there's no doubt that Howie knew Vic would like Jaelan Phillips, but I think there's sort of a sentiment where like Vic walks in the door and says, "Get me this player." I don't think that exists.
Right? No. You couldn't. No. Yeah. I agree with you there.
Yeah. All right. I also want to talk injuries with you because this is, and you were at the forefront of when the Eagles shifted Super Bowl 52. They shifted their sort of medical training staff, a bunch of it. Boy, they're having an historic run of health compared to, and I'm talking about serious injuries. You just mentioned Tucker Kraft, and I'm talking season-ending.
Yeah.
Boy, I know the Eagles hate the term luck, but it's luck, right? I mean, at some point, it doesn't matter how good your medical staff is, your training staff is. An ACL tear is an ACL tear.
Well, if somebody's arm gets bent backwards like Jaden Daniels does the other night, it's that could happen to anybody.
Exactly.
It's not training or nutrition or any of that stuff, but I think they do things that minimize. They don't have, the MetLife turf as their home field.
Yeah. Well,
they don't. Although we grumble about the lack of preseason work that the starters get and how long it takes things to come together, that definitely affects. That keeps you from getting people hurt. They do everything they can possibly do, and I think there is an effect from that. It isn't, it doesn't give you total inoculation from being devastated by injuries, but you do have to wonder about some teams who year after year seem to have.
Yeah, San Francisco.
Yeah, at what point is it so much luck that it's not a coincidence? It's a lot of luck.
Yeah,
I mentioned San Francisco. I mean, they bring a guy in, their first round draft pick, and the first thing he does is go down for the season. It's a very interesting puzzle in the NFL as to what is practice and what is just random.
Yeah. Well, I think I think where you can really make an impact is rehab, after an injury, coming back from an injury.
Yeah.
We all know the Chris Marigo story here, which,
right.
And I think they've gotten much better at that kind of stuff. But to your point, and I remember when Dallas Goedert broke his forearm, it's like, you stick your arm out there to, stiff arm somebody. Sometimes you get your forearm broke.
But your rehab point is very, very important. I think you mentioned Jihad Campbell a little while ago. I don't think any of us expected him to be ready and raring to go when training camp started.
Well, Vic said expected him in August, and he made that joke about the training staff that he's learned they like to. What'd he say? They like to.
Under promise and over perform.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Which was a great one-liner. I think that, but they've done a great job with that. I think that's
also with Nakobe Dean. I was one of those when the season started. I was like, the injuries he had, good grief. If he might not be himself, at all this season. He might be working through and getting it all back, and it might be 2026 before we really see Nakobe Dean. No, he's himself. They did a wonderful job on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Les, on the football field, what do you think they got to do here in the second half of the year to try and, realize that Super Bowl potential that they have? They've had an up and down. I mean, I know they're 6-2, but they've had some good moments and some bad moments. What do you think they really got to get going here in the second half of the year?
Well, they're coming off a real good game against the Giants, I thought. Consistency on the offense will take a lot of pressure off the defense. The defense isn't as good, and it probably isn't going to be as good as the one that dominated the Super Bowl next year just because of the people they lost. But it's good. I mean, it's good enough to win with a really good offense that takes the pressure off the defense, gets it a lead.
Right.
Keeps the snaps down. Isn't, like some of those games where they were given 74 or 72 defensive snaps, you don't want to do that. Consistent offense, offensive line, that's the key to me. The offensive line has started playing better. Get the key guys healthy there. I think maybe this layoff will help quite a bit. Key guys healthy there. Get everybody working. Get the running game. They came in with that extra offensive line.
Yeah, I love that. I love that big Fred package.
Yeah. Well, Fred's a good guy to have on the field, and it's like you were saying about Campbell. Find a way to use this thing. You've got a guy that is a solid player here. So stay with that and maybe get the passing game. It's going now, but I'd still like to see that they've started using more under center. They started using more play action. Keep those things going.
At Les Bowen, make sure you follow Les on the X platform. You can read him over at PHLY at PHLY_sports. Still doing a great job with this team. All right, we got to 4:00. Is Howie going to do something else, Les?
I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think he's going to take a big swing at this point, but hey, here's one for you. What would you give for Zach Ertz right now
That's
Zach Ertz? I like Zach Ertz. Yeah, Zach coming back. That'd be great. I don't think Zach helps though. He's a receiver.
He's not a great blocker. He's better than he was early in his career.
Yeah. But it would be a great
Goddard gets hurt a lot.
Career. Yeah.
Goddard gets hurt a lot, and he hasn't gotten hurt this year. But I would think about what they'd want, for that. Something to ponder.
Would be fun for Zach to end his career here if that's possible.
Yeah, it really would.
Yeah, he wasn't very happy when Howie traded him out, if I remember correctly.
Well, he was kind of, he
understood it, but he was emotional about it.
He wanted to be, and they were moving towards Dallas, and they should have. And those are the difficult things in the NFL. You have to make these tough decisions. But it would be fun. Great all-time Eagles player, obviously, can still catch the football with the best of them. That's an interesting one. People want Splash, though. Are we going to get a Splash? Micah Fitzpatrick. We got that name.
I'd be shocked. I'd be all for it. I'd be shocked if that happened at this point. But who knows?
So would I. Who knows with Howie? Howie doesn't like to stand still.
He does not. But again, it's so hard to make a big impact move.
Yeah.
At the trade deadline, you don't acquire superstars at the trade deadline normally.
No, you usually get Robert Quinn. You usually get Robert Quinn or Golden Tate or.
It's really his management of assets where I think that puts him ahead of everyone. I mean, Les, you talked about the rich price that we paid for Jalen, and realistically, it is. It's a third-round pick for 9 games, but he still has potentially 2 more third-round picks. You know what I mean? Like, he still has 6 picks in the top 4 rounds of this upcoming draft, and he traded what he traded. So that's, I think,
I agree. I don't think it's a terrible thing. I just said, that's more than.
Oh, you're objectively speaking, you're definitely right. I mean, that's a big price to pay for a rental player, but we'll see what ends up happening. Les, thank you for doing it today, brother. We appreciate it, man. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we'll talk to you again soon. All right.
All righty. Take care.
Thank
you, Les. There's Les Bowen joining us right here on Birds 365. Good stuff there from Les Bowen. We appreciate him checking in. Some good conversation on the trade deadline. Johnny Mack getting closer. It's 9:50. We got about 10 minutes left to go. John, I got a little news for you. I'll break to you too at the end of the show, but nothing big there. I think your hat may be delivered, John. I got an email in the middle of the Bowen interview about your hat, John. It might be delivered at your door.
Wow. I had already forgotten about it. So exciting if it comes.
I need a picture of it when you get it because I have to see if it's good because I don't see them before they get there. I got to make sure they stitched it on well. But
all right, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah, John, 10 minutes to go. Do you think they make another move today? And if they do, how big will it be?
I do think they'll make a move, but I don't think it'll be very big. I think it's more likely, as I said, to be going out than in, because again, if Nolan Smith is coming back, and presumably he is, you have to create a roster spot. If Jacorian Bennett's still here and he's not traded out, you got to create a roster spot for him. Brandon Graham, his exemption was lifted yesterday, so he's on the 53. Jaelan Phillips, it means they're at their maximum, so they have to create spots for those players. So I do think there's a chance somebody's leaving if you can get something late round pick. And I do think the splashes are probably over. But you never say never with Howie. You always leave the door slightly ajar. And he's made it abundantly clear that he knows that the Super Bowl window is wide open again, and he's going to do things to help this team get over that finishing line more than worry about the future until the offseason.
Yeah, well, let's see what they do today. I think that's a good way to look at it, John. We'll see how they are. Do you think the question I asked Les, John, about the Eagles kind of – I try not to be Eagle homer. I really do try and just be objective. I mean, looking at the NFC, I really think the Eagles are the best team in the NFC right now. I do. I think they have the best chance to come out. And that doesn't mean they're going to. It doesn't mean things aren't going to change in the next couple of weeks. But as it stands right now, to me, it feels like the Eagles are in the best position in the NFC. Am I reaching? Am I Eagle-colored glasses,
well,
John?
today, right now, they are. They're the number one seed. But, you are coming off a week where all the other perceived contenders did not look good. So there's the natural human nature of saying, well, they stink. And they probably don't.
Right. Just like if you asked us if we were going to the Super Bowl after the Giants lost, we probably would have all said no.
Exactly. And look what the Giants loss did for the Eagles. They've rebounded. They've adjusted. They looked themselves in the mirror. That's what good teams tend to do. I don't necessarily, because Green Bay lost that game last week, I like this spot less than I liked it going in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be.
I saw someone else put that out. Yeah. You don't like a team coming off a loss.
At home, that game was at Lambeau as well. They don't want to lose 2 straight at Lambeau. I think they're going to be focused. Now, they lost Kraft. By no means am I picking the game yet, or am I saying the Eagles can't win the game? I just like the spot a little bit worse than going in if the Packers had won over the Panthers. I think then the Eagles could have came in, surprised them a little bit, and I think now they're going to be hyper focused. That's the nature of the NFL. So I think part of what the Eagles are on top of the NFC right now, coming off this week, the best team. But there's a lot of football left to be played.
No doubt about it, John. No doubt. A lot of football still left to go. Packers game coming up. Packers, Lions. What do we have? Packers, Lions. Is it Bears and then Cowboys, or is it Cowboys and then Bears?
No, I think it's Cowboys
Bears,
and then
right?
Bears, right? Is it?
No, it might be. Well, I know the Bears are the Black Friday game, so that's the end of November. So, yeah, you're probably right. It's probably the Cowboys first.
The Cowboys, I don't know what's going on down there. Yeah, it's Packers, Lions, at Packers, Lions here, at Dallas, Chicago here on the.
And then at Chargers.
At the Chargers, which they lost Joe Alt for the season.
Both their tackles are now out for the year.
Slater's been out for the season. I mean, that more than anything else is why the Eagles are in a position. I mean, they just haven't lost anybody. They've had guys dinged up, Nolan, Landon, Cam, dinged up, and you say, oh, so-and-so. They don't have these devastating losses. Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, that's in the conversation for being the best tackle duo in the NFL. That's how good those guys are. And they lost both of them. And Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata are in the conversation to be the best tackle duo in the NFL. Now imagine if the Eagles lost them. That's where the Eagles are ahead of the game. This injury lack of significant injuries, they are on a sustained run, man. They are on a heater when it comes to stuff like that.
No doubt. Johnny Mac, good stuff, man. Your final thoughts here on a trade deadline day, Tuesday edition of Birds 365.
Yeah, it's here. Finally, we can stop talking about it at 4:00. Well, we'll probably talk about it more, but we'll see if Howie speaks today. Don't have, let me see if I got anything yet. Nothing yet, of course, but sometimes he talks. I think he'll talk because the Phillips move is somewhat significant, but we'll see how that shakes out. And yeah, it'll be other teams looking to make deals as well. People will get more involved because other teams are less proactive than the Eagles, which again is an Eagles advantage. But it'll be interesting. I think Bradley Chubb's going to go. Keep an eye on the Dolphins. Minka might go.
Yeah.
They're looking to redo that whole thing. So I think you're going to see some trades around the league today. And the 49ers probably are going to be the team that gets Bradley Chubb, I would think, but we'll see how that shakes out.
Yep, no doubt. All right, Johnny Mac, good show, brother. What's on the Eagles' agenda for the day?
Yeah, no idea. Nothing officially. Howie might talk.
Right? No one's speaking how he could. Yeah,
Howie might talk, but nothing official yet. And again, you're backed up a day this week because they're playing on Monday night, so they're not back on the practice field until Thursday, not Wednesday this week.
Yep, good stuff. All right, Johnny Mac, I'll talk to you maybe later on today, maybe not. We'll see what ends up happening with the trade deadline. If not, a Wednesday morning edition coming up next. Johnny Mac, good stuff, brother. Talk to you then.
All right, thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks, Jim Mac. There's Johnny Mac. John McMullen joining us right here on Birds 365. Good show today, everybody. A trade deadline day edition. Some trades happening around the league. Not many. I think I saw the Cowboys made a move earlier today, a 7th rounder for Logan Wilson. I can't hate that. I mean, 7th rounder, that's pretty nothing. So not a bad trade, I guess you could say, by the Dallas Cowboys. But I'm wondering if the Eagles do anything else. I mean, you can tell John thinks maybe something else comes, but probably going out. I don't know. Like, I can't tell if Howie would be looking to make another, not a splash move, but at least a move that, for a player that could contribute. I'm not sure if they do that or not. I'm not sure if they'll do that or not. So I tell you what, I'm excited for the Sixers game. I think they play tonight, don't they? The Sixers game? I think they play the Bulls. Sixers schedule. Yeah, they play tonight, 8 p.m. versus the Bulls, baby. I'm watching that sucker. I've been really enjoying watching the Sixers early in the year here. So good stuff. What's going on, everybody in the chat? What's going on, everybody in the chat? Appreciate everybody for being here. Don't forget to hit the like button, everybody. I see some of you guys chirping at one another. It's always a good thing. This guy, Philly Game Day, with a shitty comment earlier. I had to rip you in the chat. All you guys with the shitty comments. I'm going to start ripping people in the chat for getting shit wrong constantly. People don't listen, and then they try and give you shit, and then you're just like, shut the F up. Lo, what's up, my boy? Appreciate you, my man. Appreciate you. I appreciate you for being here. Do you guys think the Eagles make another trade today? I'm talking about a player coming in either. I'm not talking about shipping a Dory Jackson to somebody for a 7th round pick. I'm talking about a player coming in. Oh, good. You got it. Awesome. Fly Eagles. Appreciate it. Appreciate you for saying that. And I'm happy you got the shirt. Brandon says, I think we're good. I think we're done. I'm with you. All right. Zander, what are you crying about? Still upset there's no Garrett? Twiz, I can't lie to you, brother. I wanted Myles Garrett bad, and I would have done anything to get him because I think that would put us in a position to go and win multiple Super Bowls, not just this year, but would open up our window for the next 3 years completely with no change on defense necessary. But I understand it was far-fetched. Zander, is Peanut Head still in the chat? I doubt it. That guy was a Nimrod. Les with the Ertz take had John thinking about my Njoku take. Dirty air. That was hilarious. But you did get one up, dude. The take after yours about Mark Andrews was brutal. Big Z back riding with the Sixers. I've always loved the Sixers, but I am excited to see what that team can do. I love the young backcourt. Houston says, hey, Zander, this team has people upset, and I think it's from fear of them possibly going to the bowl again. I think they have a really good chance, man. I really do. And I don't think it's about being an Eagle homer. I think looking at it objectively, you look at all the teams in the league, you look at all the NFC teams, you look at all the teams' strengths and weaknesses, you look at the schedules, you look at the injuries, you look at everything, all things considered. Right now, there's no team, in my opinion, that has a better shot to go back to the Super Bowl than the Eagles. That doesn't mean you're going to guaranteed go back. It doesn't mean things can't change in the next couple of weeks. It doesn't mean the playoff picture won't change. But as we stand right now, based on our injuries, how our team has progressed through the first 9 games, I think we have the best shot. And Shooter, I think the Seahawks are right up there. I put that in my tweet yesterday. To me, it's the Rams and the Seahawks that are our biggest contenders. It's really not the Lions or the Packers to me. I think they're both great, good teams. I'm not saying those two teams aren't good teams. But looking at the injuries, looking at the streaky nature of those two teams, I think the Rams and the Seahawks are actually a better test for us. The question with the Seahawks is what? What will Sam Darnold do when the lights get bright? That's my question. All right. Niall, I'm kind of with you. The Rams, I put that out yesterday on my social media. I think the Rams are clearly our biggest test and or our biggest our biggest threat in the NFC. And I still think we're better than them. But Matt Stafford, they got those great pass catchers. I think Puka Nacua might have got hurt again. They got that good defensive line. Obviously, Jared Verse is a beast. They got some of those dudes in the interior there. So I think they're our toughest test. I'm with you. All right. I think the Rams are the toughest opponent we have. And remember, Niall, that was a team that played us to the finish last year in the playoffs, even with Saquon having over 200 rushing yards. So they kind of took our best punch in that running game last year, and we're still right there. So that's going to be a tough test, no doubt. But we kind of have their number, man, don't we? Don't we kind of have their number? I mean, people tell me all the time that the Bucs had our number. I know we beat them this year, but if the Bucs have our number, then we have the Rams number, right? So they're a good team, but I do think we're in a good position. Fly Eagles Fly says Lions gonna be tough. I think the Lions are a good squad. I just think they're a little streaky. That's all. Streaky, and they're injured. Sirianni does own McVay, right? You're right. So not one of the few times you're right, which is very rare. All right. Rams are okay, but they are like paper in the playoffs. They get wet, they fall apart. Oh, is that right, game day? The team that was within one pass or one Jalen Carter sack of winning the playoff game last year. Did they stink in that game? Is that what your assumption is? Philly game day? You're bending the narratives to fit your beliefs. You are bending the facts to fit your beliefs. Don't bend. Just be objective. The Rams were good in the playoffs last year. The Rams were within one play of beating us with a 200-yard game from Saquon Barkley. They were not paper in the playoffs. They were good in the playoffs. We were the better team, and we won the game. They did not fall apart. Stupid fucking comment. Not the first one you've made today. All right? Not the first one you made today. Rams are sneaky. They're a good team. All right? Zander, how many short clips will we get from Bat? It depends on my editors, Big Mike, how many they can put together. I do have some good things in the works, though, with my editing crew, so I'm excited about some of the things that are coming. All right? I'm just trying to build JAKIB up, man, to be bigger. I appreciate everybody for being here. All right, I do. I appreciate all the likes. Let me make sure I got all our chat. Got all the chats today. Chats were funny today. John was getting pissed at some of the chats, which is funny. But, geez. Drop the phone. I'm ready for this Jalen and Jalen duo. Me too, Blaze. I'm with you, man. I think Jalen. I have an opportunity. I think the Jaelan Phillips has an opportunity to be a long-term player here. It's kind of like if they pay Jalen, what does that mean for the rest of the guys they have to pay on defense? But I feel like Jaelan Phillips, man, I love that interview with him. I don't know, it was just a short question from Johnny Airport, but I just liked the mentality that he had. I liked the approach. I liked the response to the questions. I looked at some of his tape. I was watching his tape actually on Sunday night before the trade was announced because John had mentioned on our Sunday show, for anybody who caught our special Sunday show about Jair Alexander, John mentioned on there, hey, I think Jaelan Phillips is going to be coming. So I started watching some of the Jaelan Phillips tape on Sunday. I really liked it. I mean, it's a highlight, so it's the highlights. It's not the lowlights, but He lined up all over the defensive line, got a bunch of pressure, great at getting after the quarterback, tons of moves at the line of scrimmage. I like the Jaelan Phillips move, and I think there's an opportunity for him to become a long-term guy here. Obviously the injuries are a big part of that, but I do. I think there's a chance for him to become a long-term guy here. I'm a fan of the Jaelan Phillips move. I'm not worried about the third-round pick even a fucking little bit. I mean, I get where Les is coming from, but I'm not even like a little, like I don't give a fucking rat's ass about a third-round pick at the end of the third round. I mean, seriously? You think I'm going to sit here and fret about what would it be? The 96th overall pick in the draft? I mean, come on, man. I'm not worried about that. The 90th to the 96th pick? I'm not fucking worried about that. That's stupid. That's stupid. I'm not worried about that at all. We need an edge rusher right now. Our Super Bowl, how many times? It's the same thought process with Myles Garrett. Now, I know that was obviously way more, but what are we worried about a third-round pick for? The Super Bowl window is open right now. If you look at the history of the NFL, the history of football, Super Bowl windows don't just stay open for 10 years. They don't. Nobody's does. So why would ours be the first in the history to do that? Take advantage of right now. Take advantage of right now, man. Emirates, if you listen to the show, that's not a guarantee. All right? Kyle, who told you that all summer? Don't buy the Washington bullshit. One good year in 20 years is not enough for me to say you're going to be a perennial contender in the NFC. I said it all offseason. Washington was a bullshit narrative propped up by the league and the next shiny object of Jaden Daniels that they wanted to promote. It was always bullshit. The team was never in a good position. Never. And it's not even all their fault. It's a lot of the fault of the previous owner. James Jones, you're in here. I'm not even trying to bash you. What I'm more looking at is, James, you can't turn around ownership that fucked up every move for 20 years. A GM that fucked up every move for 20 years. Adam Peters can't just come in, draft a good quarterback, and okay, we're back on the winning track. Think about this. The Eagles traded a third-round pick yesterday for Jaelan Phillips. They still have 6 picks in the top 4 rounds of the upcoming draft. With our roster, you know how many picks the Commanders have in the top 4 rounds of the upcoming draft? Anybody want to take a guess at how many picks the Commanders have in the top 4 rounds of the upcoming draft? 2. You can blame Adam Peters all you want. They don't have a good setup. He is inheriting a shit show. He inherited a shit show. That team needs a lot more good decisions to get in our ballpark. Sorry, they just do. And James, I'm not even saying this to be the Eagle guy that bashes on the people in the division. I'm not like that. I don't view football like that. I don't bash the divisional opponents like that. I told everybody I thought the Cowboys were going to be better. They're proving me wrong because they look like they suck again. But I try and be objective. The Commanders were never in a good spot coming into the year. Jaden Daniels looks like a fine young ball player. He is not a magician. Not turning that team around, man. They need more good. They need to stack good decisions on top of good decisions multiple years in a row before they can look at themselves and say, okay, now we're in a position to go and compete. They weren't there yet. They were never there coming into the year. And then they patched it up with a bunch of old heads and said, hey, we're right there. And now they got all these injuries and everyone's wondering why they got all the injuries. Well, they were the oldest team in football. That doesn't work well. And again, James, I'm not even out here to try and bash your team. I think Jaden Daniels is a fine young player. I worry about how that body holds up with his style in the NFL, but that's not even my point. My point is a lot less about Jaden Daniels and a lot more about the shitty organization, the shitty ownership, the shitty roster management, the shitty decisions that they've made year in and year out. Team's not ready. Team is not ready. That's why I think the Packers are getting closer because they've made good decisions, for the most part in recent years. So they're getting a little bit closer. I still don't believe in Jordan Love. I'm sorry. I just don't. I just don't believe in Jordan Love. The Lions I like, but a lot of injuries, a lot of inconsistencies, losing that good offensive coordinator. I know they've looked good on offense. Jared Goff's a good player, but what will he do when the lights get bright? That's why that was a part of my take on the Eagles being in the best position, because the other thing the Eagles have is the Eagles have the experience and the pedigree in big games and in big moments. You never know what a player, what a team, what a coach, what they're going to look like when the lights turn up, when the pressure in the pipe gets bigger, and when you're in a must-win game in the playoffs. The Eagles, we've at least seen that. Now, it hasn't all been perfect. They lost to the Bucs in the playoffs. They had two crappy games versus the Packers and really versus the I wouldn't say versus the Rams, but they had like 80 yards passing in that game. So, but they've had also the good moments of the Super Bowls, of the NFC title games, So I think they've done more in the big moments to show, hey, we have big game pedigree. Other guys might not. Other teams might not. So that's where I kind of like the advantage from the Eagles over the Lions. I look at the Rams and I think that's probably our toughest NFC competitor right now. I think Matthew Stafford is still a dominant quarterback. I think he's still probably top 5, top 7, somewhere up there. Honestly, I think they got a good coach in McVay who has learned, who has gotten better at some of the other things of being a coach. Their offense is obviously a special offense. They got Devontae Adams. They got Puka Nacua. I think they're our toughest test. And Amarius isn't wrong. We kind of have the Rams number. As good as they are, as much of a threat as they pose, we kind of have their number. So if the Eagles can stay healthy as they've stayed, I don't see another team in the NFC knocking us off. I think we're going to Santa Clara. Let's see. Stafford, like another game day. I'm now convinced you do not watch football. I'm now convinced you do not watch football. What a fucking bad take. What a bad fucking take. Stafford was good in the playoff game versus last year. What are you smoking? If you're going to call shit out, be correct. Be right. Do the research. Look up the real truth of the matter. Stafford was not the fucking problem with the Rams in the playoffs last year. He threw for 330 in the snow. He had a good game. Dude, you're fucking delusional. You are fucking stone cold delusional. This is like the 4th comment in a row that you've had that has been stone cold stupid. Stupid. I hate stupidity. Maybe John's rubbing off on me. I hate the stupidity. I really do. I mean, come on, man. Stafford in the playoff. Yeah, that's their biggest problem, right? Come on, man. Here's my boy Lucius. What's up, Lucius? I don't see a team in the league that can stop our A game. We just need – well, I agree 100% with that, dude. The problem there is, like you just said, I mean, we've been streaky in terms of bringing our A game. In fact, I don't think we've played an A game yet this year. Probably the last Giants game was the closest thing to it. Probably the last Giants game was the closest thing to it. But, Lucius, there's also a little bit of a catch-22 there where you're never basically going to play your best game. It's always kind of the striving for that. That's kind of why I love that phrase that Hurts used to use about the standard, and a lot of times we laugh at what Jalen says because it's like this T-shirt slogan, but it makes sense. Like when you're a team that is striving to be great all the time. I was saying this to my boy Roll Philly on Twitter yesterday because he was comparing Josh Allen to Jalen Hurts and the tush pushes and why they don't talk about that with Jalen. And I'm like, when you're the Eagles and you have aspirations like we do, like they do as a team and like we do as a fan base, when you're Jalen Hurts and you talk about things the way you do, you are held to a different standard. The standard for championships, the standard for greatness, the standard for week in and week out dominance, and the standard to put multiple rings on the mantle is bigger than the average standard across the football league, across the National Football League. It just is. That's what being great is all about. It's a higher standard than the rest. It's a higher standard than average. We have a higher standard for our team. The team, I think, has a higher standard for themselves. Jalen Hurts, we have a higher standard for Jalen Hurts than most. I'm good with that. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. All right. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. Hurts has exuded that standard. Well, Race, that's true. But, there's also been moments he hasn't lived up to it, and that's okay. I mean, nobody's ever going to live up to it every week. But, Race, we can't look at the last two. Like, I always say Jalen's a good big game player. But I can't leave out, like, the Packer and the Rams game last year in the playoffs. Those are big games, right? Like, those are win or go home games. Jalen didn't really play great in those games. Now, he did play great in the NFC title game in the Super Bowl. But if you don't win the 2 games prior, you don't get to that point. So I agree. Hurts has exuded that standard. Living up to it every week is the hard part and the challenging part, which, in a way is not possible to do, to live up to it every week. Niall says, man, I love this Jalen. Niall, me too. In fact, I'm growing. It's growing on me more and more. The more I think about it, the more I watched the tape on the player last night. I think Jaelan Phillips has a chance to be a household name in Philly. I really do. Coming out playing with a better team, a better defensive line, a better defensive coordinator, a better offense. Everything is going to make him look better. Niall, when you're a good player and you play for the shitty Dolphins and you're 2-8 or whatever the hell it is, nobody recognizes how good you are unless you're Myles Garrett. Now that he's back with the team in the spotlight on a good team with a good defense, with a good offense, I think people are going to start to realize that Jaelan Phillips is a real player. All right. Well, Reyes, that's a different thing than play on the field. That's more mentality, which is fine. Z, how should attack this Packers passer? I'm not worried about it. Get the ball out quick, run the ball right down their throat. And Berto, what's the best way to stop Micah Parsons? Run the rock, man. Run the rock. And I want to see more of that play action. I want to see more of that play action this week. It's a perfect team to do it on. Run the ball well on first down, get 4 or 5 yards, set up the play action, use the middle of the field. I think their secondary is suspect. I think A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith can both have big games in here. I think you run the ball, get the play action, play your game. Dictate it. We can dictate it. We don't have to let them dictate it. We don't have to let them dictate it. I'm not sold on their intent. Me neither. Me neither, Kyle. I'm with you. I'm with you. All right. Hurts did not play. No, he didn't, Jerry. Those were not his best games. All right. He did not. Crowley says Hurts played great in the Packers and Rams games. I don't know if you're kidding or you might be kidding, Crowley, based on what I know about you. But no, I mean, look, I don't think he played awful, but I don't think he played great. I don't think he played, if you're going to use that Jalen's good in big games, and which I use. He's been amazing in 2 Super Bowls. That matters to me. But you can't, I don't like the leaving out of the other context, I don't like leaving. Crowley, I kind of knew you were kidding, but just to talk about what you're saying, I don't like leaving out the other games. He's a quarterback. He's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Dak Prescott, you can see it. I saw some Nimrod in here chirping me. Oh, is Dak the MVP? I'm like, 2 weeks ago, yeah, Dak was the MVP. 2 shitty games later, no, Dak isn't the MVP anymore. It's fucking football. Sometimes I don't get people football is a constantly changing sport and industry to cover and talk about. If you think opinions are going to be the same day in and week out, week after week, month after month, you're stupid. You're a low IQ individual who doesn't understand the way things change. New information means what? What does new information mean, everybody? It means your opinion evolves. Come on. Adoree asked more. I agree now. I don't think they're getting shit for Adoree. They're going to cut him, in my opinion. So, yeah, Curtis. I of course I never predicted that, Curtis. I said in the moment, Dak was playing phenomenal football because he was. Now he hasn't. Last night he wasn't great. Week prior he wasn't great. I said it. I'm fine saying it. New information, changing opinion. It's how it works. But I think people just, I don't know. I think people just want to be lied to, honestly. Twiz, what's up, Twiz? He says, all I want is Jalen Lowe's to disappear. It's criminal with all his talent. Once he does that, elite. He checks every box besides consistency. Well, I don't think, Twiz, to be fair to Jalen, you're never going to have a player that doesn't have bad games. You're never going to have a player that does. It doesn't matter who you are. Maybe Myles Garrett doesn't have bad games, but you're never going to have a quarterback that doesn't have bad games, right? I mean, even the best quarterbacks have bad games. And I think Jalen is one of the best quarterbacks. But, I think if you can get the lows to be a little higher, like what I don't like, Twiz, is I don't think the lows are going to disappear. I don't like 0 completions in the second half. Like that to me is like, that you can't have that. You can't have that. That I agree with. Saying he's never going to have lows or the lows should disappear, I think is kind of unfair to him. I mean, they're human beings. They're not going to be at their best. Like, Twiz, do you feed the goats as good as you do? Do you take care of the animals on your farm as good every day? Is every day as good as the other day? I don't know. Maybe that's not a good comp. Twiz, whatever you do for work, are you as good at your job each day as you are the other day? I mean, we all have ups and downs. Sometimes I have bad shows. Sometimes I have good shows. Sometimes I have a lot of energy. Sometimes I have low energy. I mean, they're human beings, Sean says the best quarterbacks have more good games than bad. Well, Sean, answer this. Does Jalen have more good games than bad? Does Jalen have more good games than bad? I think he does. I think he has a lot more good games than he does bad. I do think where Twiz is right is that sometimes the lows with Jalen are really low. And that's not ideal, especially with the roster that we have on offense. But I think Jalen has more good games than he has bad. I mean, I don't even think it's close, honestly. I don't even think it's close. I'd argue he's about 50-50. I don't think it's that. Hurts is steady, not spectacular. I'm good with that. Manny says you're crazy. In what way, Manny? You think he has more bad games? Sean says no. Okay. So Sean thinks he's worse more than he's good. I don't know if I agree with that. In fact, I definitely don't agree with that. Dank, let me go to Dank. I think I saw Dank chirping, which is good. I always like to hear from Dank. He said, again, reports over your own opinion. Dank, are you talking to me here so I know, or are you talking to someone in the chat? It's 4 bad to every 1 good. Manny, that's not true, dude. Manny, that's not true. Come on, man. I can be objective and say, all right, Dank, you're not talking to me? I thought you were. I think he has more good games than bad, but passing-wise, it's a lot closer. That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I just think Jalen's his main skill set in his career has never been, a pocket passer. So if you look exclusively at the passing element, you could probably make the argument he's more 50-50 with passing. And I could maybe agree with that. I think that's probably a fair thing. But as Jalen Hurts has taught us as fans, and I think he's hopefully taught all of you, the quarterback position, especially in the modern game, especially in the way the NFL has evolved and changed, passing is not the only thing that goes into it. Now, it's a big thing. And sometimes, yeah, I wish Jalen would pass the ball better. We have AJ, we have Devontae, we have Goddard. I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't wish sometimes Jalen was a better passer. I'd be lying to you. I don't lie to you, though. I always try and give you my honest opinion. Yeah, sometimes I wish Jalen was a better passer. But at the end of the day, I think Jalen has proven that in the modern game, there's more to quarterbacking than just passing the ball. I think even Tom Brady admits that when he commentates on games now. The dual threat nature. And look, where it has changed is, it has changed in a big way in what quarterbacks are asked to do at the line of scrimmage, in their progressions, all those different things. You see way less of that. I mean, I saw today in Arizona, they're talking about, holy shit. What's his name? Who played last night? Jacoby Brissett. He gets through his progressions. He's a progression reader. He can see over the line of scrimmage. He can throw the ball to the middle of the field. All the same shit. All the same shit. Jalen just happens to be better at the other shit than the others do in terms of like Kyler. He scrambles a lot. He rolls out to his right a lot, gets out of the pocket a lot. When Jalen does that, he makes plays more than others. Look, Jalen to me is a very interesting player. He's a very complex player. He's a very interesting player. He's almost, some of him doesn't make sense from like he has his best passing game versus Brian Flores. And you're just like, what the fuck? You're like, what the fuck? But that's kind of the nature of the player, and I think there's a lot of good to that. There's some negative, but imagine fucking thinking there is no negative on every player. There's negative on every player. I think with Jalen, you really got to look at the full context. But I get it. Sometimes it's hard to put it all in. Kyler Murray is a team. I don't even think he's Temu. I think he's like AliExpress. I think he's AliExpress. So it is what it is. Guys, good conversation today. A lot of good commentary. It is trade deadline day. I'm kind of keeping my phone right here. Like, all right, if anything is coming, I'll be up to date. I'll come live with you guys if anything does happen. Trade deadline's at 4 p.m. So once Cilio's show starts at 2, we'll take any content from there. I'll be on, I assume, unless Cilio has another guest at 3:30. I assume I'll be on there for 3:30 to 4:30. So kind of right through the trade deadline, and we'll kind of keep everybody posted on it. But outside of there, we'll see what happens. Where's Trey? I don't think he's going anywhere, Sig. They want a first-round pick. That's fucking stupid. They're not getting a first-round pick for Trey Hendrickson. He's 30 years old on an expiring contract. Get fucking lost, Cincinnati. That's a stupid thing to do. And quite frankly, I'm happy the Eagles pivoted off him because that would have been stupid to trade a first-round pick for Trey Hendrickson. That would have been stone cold stupid. And them wanting a first-round pick is egregious. They're not getting a first-round fucking pick for Trey Hendrickson. Stop it. A first-round pick for Trey. He's a 30-year-old guy who's a kind of a one-trick pony on an expiring contract. Yeah, let me give up a first-round pick. Here's Lucius. Stay there, Zay. Look at the problems Flores gave Goff this Sunday and compare it to what Hurts did. You can put a finger on except the coaching. Well, Lucius, it's a good point. I mean, it's a good point about Hurts. It's a credit to Hurts. It is. But Lucius, I'm also not going to leave out all the other shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I'm going to give Jalen credit where Jalen deserves credit. I'm not going to sit here and act like Jalen Hurts is the greatest quarterback to ever grace the National Football League because he's on my favorite team. I think we call a spade a spade. We call a strike. We call a ball a ball. That's what I've always tried to do here. I've always tried to be objective. I've always tried to be honest in my thoughts. And I've always tried to live up to that. I don't think I've ever lied to you guys. Certainly haven't intentionally. Maybe your emotions get the best of you here and there, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Niall says, today's the trade deadline. AJ's Niall, good teams don't trade great players in the middle of a season. That's nobody, you don't do that. That's for bad teams, dude. And I know you're saying that, but that's for bad teams. That's for bad. Good teams, great teams, don't take good players and trade them in the middle of a season where you're 6-2 and at the top of the NFC. You want to talk about AJ getting traded in the summer? I think it's a realistic conversation, especially if you're thinking about paying Jaelan Phillips, right? But AJ Brown getting moved right now is a very stupid thought process. Xander said, Dak, Senor, do you honestly believe Dak is not a good quarterback? Because I can see now that this is what people are going to try and use against me. Through 6 weeks, Dak Prescott was playing like one of the best quarterbacks in football. I said that openly on the shows, and now after 2 bad weeks, new information, evolving information, Senor thinks I have to have the same take every week, the same opinion. Senor, do you honestly believe that Dak Prescott is not a good quarterback? Is that your honest belief about Dak Prescott? Or are you just an Eagle fan and you just want to shit on the Cowboys? If you're that, that's fine too. That's fine too. If you just want to be an Eagle fan. Hey, dickhead, you got to evaluate. Yo, dickhead, when you're in week fucking 6, you can't evaluate the whole season. You fucking Nimrod. Does the brain in your head work, senor? You cannot evaluate a whole season after week fucking 6. You stupid fuck. You stupid fuck. Jeez. I mean, seriously. It's like after 6 weeks, Dak Prescott was one of the best quarterbacks in football this year. Yes, he was. I don't give a fuck if he played for your least favorite team. After the last 2 weeks, the opinions change. They evolve. He's had 2 worse games. I can't help. Senor, if you're this fucking stupid, I can't help you. You cannot be helped if you're this fucking stupid. Goodbye and good riddance. Can't fix stupid. You can talk reason with people who are objective and can hear you out. You can't fix stupid, though. And you're flat out stupid. Big Mike says, I think we should have a giveaway today. No giveaway today. I'm out of my studio yet. I won't be back in my studio till Thursday. Maybe Friday. Depends. Yeah, I mean, anybody who watches football more than just their own fucking team knows that Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. I mean, come on. Why do we try and lie to ourselves to fit our narrative? Why does it really make you feel that much better to lie to yourself? Oh, because I hate the Cowboys, I'm going to say their quarterback, who's clearly a pretty good quarterback, sucks ass. Like, does that make you feel better? Is that what you need to be a fan of football? I don't need that. I don't understand that thought process. But it appears a lot of people need that. They need to lie to themselves. They need to lie to everybody in order to feel better about their own favorite team. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. I don't need a lie about Dak Prescott's talent to make me feel good about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. I don't need to. I don't need to say Dak Prescott is an awful quarterback, which clearly he's fucking not. Clearly he is not. I mean, to feel better about my team, it's weird. It's such that's cowboy mentality. That's a Cowboy fan. That's how Cowboy fans think. I mean, come on, man. I mean, what's the point of being a fan of this game? What's the point of making this our number one hobby in life? Right? We all have families or things in life, and then we have hobbies, right? I assume football, if you're listening to me here on November 4th at 10:35 in the morning, I assume football is your hobby. Don't you want to, be honest? Don't you want to learn more about it? Don't you want to watch great players? Don't you care about a little bit more than just the guys who wear the Eagles jersey? Look, here's this. This guy is so fucking stupid. Every comment he makes proves he's even stupider than I thought. And Senor, I actually like you. You're a great supporter of JAKIB. I talked to you on the post-game show last week. I think genuinely you might be the dumbest person on this chat. Honestly. Pretty sure Zander said Dak is playing MVP. Senor, let's rewind 2 fucking weeks before you saw 2 bad games. Was Dak Prescott playing MVP football after week 6? You fucking idiot. Was he or was he not? Or no, Senor, did you go in a fucking time machine and you were the only guy who knew that Dak Prescott wasn't going to have a good game on a Monday night? Was he or was he not playing MVP football after week 6? Yes or fucking no? Yes or no? You won't answer because you're too fucking stupid to be objective about anything in life. Good night. I mean, seriously. Do you think it makes me look bad to say Zander said Dak was playing MVP ball 2 weeks ago? You really think that makes me look bad? Dak was playing great fucking football 2 weeks ago. He was, senor. 2 bad games don't change that. They change whether he's in the MVP conversation. Yes. 2 fucking weeks ago, he was in the MVP conversation. God, you idiots. You fucking idiots. Some of you people are literally I swear you're brain dead. I don't even know how it happened. God bless you. Brain dead, man. Brain fucking dead. Good. Fuck the neighbors, Special K. They all know what I do. It's very true, Steve. It's very true, Steve. Very true. All right, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. Senor, go on another walk with your son. You need it. Maybe clear the head. Maybe read a book. I don't know. Look up, type in, how do I get my IQ higher? Is my IQ inherent? Can I change my IQ, or am I born with being this stupid? Maybe look that up. That might help you. All right. Love all you guys. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. Relax. Don't tell me to fucking relax. I'll relax on my own time. Certainly not on Bird Gang 1988's time. All right. Go fucking back to 1988 with that bullshit. Love all you guys. See you next time, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.